A very warm welcome, everybody, to Portimão, to the Algarve International Autodromo for the traditional season end to the Michelin Le Mans Cup and indeed the European Le Mans Series. Under a fair bit of cloud now, and there's some wind around as well, but otherwise a sunny and warm day. You join me, Johnny Palmer, and Graham Goodwin, the editor of dailysportscar.com, for the season finale qualifying session. However, we have to wait until, wait until Saturday. They are normally Saturday races, but this being a Friday-Saturday meeting, it's quali today, it's the race tomorrow morning. 10:30 start for the final race of the season, which will mark round 7 of the championship, and it'll run, as it usually does, to 1 hour and 50 minutes. So 2 doses of qualifying to be done first of all. GT3 followed by the LMP3s, and the cars have already been released from their areas in the paddock at sometimes fairly decent speed, and the marshals in the paddock doing a good job to make sure that cars were having to make their way through to the assembly area initially and then into the pit lane. Remember, none of these cars actually have their own garages this weekend. They're instead kept for the ELMS teams, so the cars will be worked on in a satellite fashion in the front of the garages. So tyre trolleys required and all the gubbins as well to allow for this session to take place. As far as GT3 is concerned, in a sense, the excitement has been taken away because that was decided in the way of Alessandro Balsan and Matt Kurzeszewski with a round to spare, Graham. But we do still have it all up for grabs in LMP3.
Yeah, title won last time out, but that's not going to take away from the dramas today. These qualifying sessions do tend to turn on the heat a little bit, and the race tomorrow, it's going to be as dramatic as always, isn't it? And not least because we've got all sorts of ifs, buts and maybes, and a couple of certainties. The certainty is this will be the last time you hear these sounds at a Michelin Le Mans Cup race this weekend. The last round for the Nissan-powered cars before the new Toyota twin-turbo-powered 2025 cars arrive, and some of those will be testing here later this weekend. It's one of the reasons why we've got a shift in the timetable. It's going to be the last time we see the Michelin Le Mans Cup in LMP3 with a single class in P3, because that's going to shift with a new semi-pro class next year. And I suspect we're going to be seeing a whole range of new teams and drivers into this, hearing all sorts from teams that are currently here about what they will do, teams looking to come back with more cars, come back with different cars, and indeed a number of teams that aren't currently here with an eye to joining the Michelin Le Mans Cup in 2025. That's next year. For right now, it's all about the titles and pole position and race wins in 2024. And what we're going to see first, Johnny Palmer, is the 11 cars we have here. 3, of course, for the European Le Mans Series. There are some subtle but important differences, but these are standard GT3 cars, Ferraris, Porsches, Aston Martins, and Audi, and Lamborghini are set to go, and it's going to be 15 minutes, and what we will see almost certainly here is the pace coming throughout this 15-minute session.
There is still a fight on for second place in the championship. That's not yet decided in the favour of the 88 AF Corsa Ferrari, driven by Custodio Toledo in this session. Riccardo Agostini, his gold teammate, because the 74 Kessel Racing Ferrari of Andrew Gilbert and Fran Rader is close enough to snatch second. Only 16 points between them, with 25 or 26 on offer. And High Class Racing, the 18 Porsche of Nick Jones and Sven Muller, is also close enough, therefore. Does it stretch back to the 5th placed team is the next question. 73.5 to 49.5 is 24 points, so it does.
It does.
Yeah, okay.
So it's going to be the bronze drivers in this session.
Yes, as always.
It's been the case throughout the history of this championship. Goes back in GT3 terms to 2016. LMP3 cars joined the fun the following season. And we are about to go green, and indeed, as I say those words, we do so. And it's a smoky rear tyre burnout start from the Kessel Racing Ferraris. And out they go. Fred Jousset is going to be in the number 12 Kessel car. I-Class Racing's 18 in the hands of Nick Jones. And Stella Motorsport, Alex Martin in a new look squad for Stella, and their number 24 Audi Proton Huber competition. Manuel Lauk will take out the very colourful number 73 Porsche. The 83 on Dames car, Celia Martin aboard that car. Custodio Toledo has been a force this year. He's in the 88 AF Corsa car. And the two Blackthorn Aston Martins, James Swift back aboard the number 90 with the Domino's Pizza branding on the side of the doors on that car, and the number 91 car, Claude Beauvais. Also joining the session now, Josep Mayola Comadera, my apologies, in the Biogas Motorsport 23 Ferrari from Spain. AF Corsa's 51 car, it will be our new champion, Matt Kurzajewski, in that car. Andrew Gilbert is in the number 74 Kessel car.
This is the shortest circuit we visit all year in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, only by a few metres, 4 of them shorter than the Catalunya track, but it is up and down Dale, the Big Dipper on almost the coast of the Atlantic. It's a terrific place to come visit in this time of year, middle of October, and always does deliver a terrific race. It's also pretty tricky to set up a car around here because you need to be good down the start-finish straight, which is lengthy. But there are plenty of slow and medium speed corners where patience is key, and it's actually very easy on cold tyres to make the odd mistake, which can result in a spin. And there's gravel traps here, there are walls not that far away from the edge of the track as well, so jeopardy is definitely part of the mixture as well. And which direction have you gone on single lap pace compared to maybe how the car will be set up for tomorrow morning's 1 hour and 50-minute race, where there'll be 2 stints? That's what the points look like in the GT3. So 107.5 was more than enough at Mugello to seal the title for the 51 Ferrari. And that car has now joined the session. However, the Iron Dames 83 Lamborghini has come back in again. That did leave the pit lane, didn't it?
Yes,
yeah.
it did. So it's come straight back in as others go around for a first crack at a flying lap. Already 2.5 minutes gone in this session. The season at the top end at the moment, to this point, pretty dominated by the Ferraris, and in particular the AF Corsa Ferraris. Kessel Racing have fought well, but have not produced the results they were hoping for in the overall championship stage.
We're hearing from Steph Wentworth, who we'll hear plenty of from, I should say, for the rest of the weekend in due course. But apparently Iron Dames just came in and out again. We're not getting pit stops timed at this stage of the day.
I wonder if that may have been a communications error, or maybe there was just a system that needed to be reset. It was safe to do it on pit lane.
I mean, sometimes this session is used to scrub a set of race tyres, just take that sealing agent, the releasing agent, off a set of Michelins. But Steph reckoned actually there were no tyres changed on the car. It's back in the session, so I can't see a problem as such.
Well, lots of questions, by the way, about Celia Martin, Karen Gaillard, the new look for the Iron Dames this season. What of the future of the Iron Dames efforts? We've got Sarah Bovy, the established bronze in that race-winning lineup in both the European Le Mans Series and in the FI World Endurance Championship. But Sarah is up for review of her driver grading. So what is the future for Celia Martin? We've got Marta Garcia racing in the Legio European Series. Are we about to see a changing of the guard? Is it going to be Lamborghinis, or is it going to be Porsches in other championships, as we've currently got in the European Le Mans Series? Lots of questions to be answered, and those questions will be answered before the end of this year.
So it was all about the Ferraris in the first 3 races of the season, although Fred Jose and David Fumanelli winning in the GT3s in that first very shortened race at Le Mans, the first half of the Road to Le Mans event in June. Oh, big off for the 12, which was one of the first cars to be released. That's the car I was, in fact, just talking about.
Cars to slow down immediately.
And that's surely out of turn 4, yeah, with the tower in the background. So has it run out wide to the right initially and then swung back across the track and into the barrier? First concern is obviously for Fred Jose's welfare, because it looks like it's been in backwards and forwards, that Ferrari.
It is a corner that has caught people out in all sorts of machinery. That's been a really heavy. It's left part of the car embedded. Let's have a look here. Just saw the end of that. So the damage we can see is that to the rear, but it had already nosed in any case. But the heavier damage, I think, is to the rear of the car.
I don't think the nose made contact with the barrier.
In fairness, was not as big an impact as I thought it might have been. No. So the standard of safety aboard these GT3 cars these days absolutely astounding. So Kessel Racing, I'm afraid.
Car 12, please instruct your driver to wait for recovery. Car 12, we will send recovery. Please tell your driver to not rejoin.
And that is the danger of bringing bits of debris onto the racetrack and some grass as well. So
Yeah,
now José's getting the message at Kessel.
that's smart from Glenn Boursier, our race director. The car has taken damage. There's clear possibility that more debris may come from that. He's not going to go any further in this session. There's too much damage to complete the session at anything like a competitive pace. So there is nothing to be lost by allowing recovery to come, and something to be gained that we may not have to have a longer interruption to clear the track.
There's also the red flag rule, though, that does extend into the Le Mans Cup, as far as I remember, as in if you cause a red flag,
you're likely not to be allowed.
You wouldn't be permitted to carry on anyway. And all times set by that car would be deleted. Well, it only set one anyway.
Yeah,
So,
and not competitive times
As
yet.
instructed during the briefing, GT3 cars are allowed to reach pit exit and wait there if you wish to do so.
So you can access the fast lane, and those that want to do that can get a good position from a standing start, therefore. Always better to be first or second in the queue rather than back in 10th, if you like, because otherwise you wouldn't have the clear road in front of you to try and set a good time. That was what the 51 crew were trying to do, hold the car back, in fact, so that the clear air comes to them by releasing the car 30 seconds or so behind. Sven Muller, I mentioned his name already, is partnering Nick Jones in the number 18 high-class racing Porsche, with that outside chance of still finishing second in the championship.
Absolutely, it's been a reasonably impressive series from them, and it'd be good to see if Nick comes back again next season to continue climbing up the order. An unfortunate start to his Michelin Le Mans Cup career 2 seasons ago with a guest appearance here, and that, Johnny Palmer, you'll recall, was a race that they struggled to get out of pit lane, got out of pit lane, just as behind them was the mother and father of all accidents, was Jerome de Sadler against the pit wall.
Yes.
And he ended up getting no competitive laps on his debut.
Yeah.
But he's come back, and now with the car in the hands, not of Team Parker Racing as it was for his first season, but with high-class racing, and it's been impressive. That's the entire rear undertrow of that car embedded in the wall.
So an expensive off, even though it wasn't particularly high speed. And therefore Fred José clearly okay, because he was actually wanting to rejoin, but eventually was sent the message on the radio from Glenn Boursier via the team to say, you can't rejoin, I'm afraid, you'll have to be towed away to a safe location.
That is the unfortunate remains of one of the 2 Kessel Racing cars. There is Fred out of the car and looking over the damage at the rear of the car. One of those moments you don't want to be a part of, really. But Kessel Racing with 1 car left in this fight. And they've been up the sharp end of this championship all season. They come into the European Le Mans Series race tomorrow, Johnny, leading the championship after 2 consecutive wins. And with the possibility of a bookend at this point in GT3 history, having built the car that won the first ever GT3 race back in 2006, the Ferrari 430, with the late and much lamented Alan Simonson and Hector Lester aboard that car at Silverstone. Could they take the first ever LMGT3 title in the European Le Mans Series? They're one of an astonishing 9 cars from the 11 that are in the mix, but they lead the championship.
Yeah, and amazing, therefore, what actually 2 wins from sort of nowhere can turn your season around.
It's been so topsy-turvy, hasn't it? I mean, we were talking last time out for the European Le Mans Series, the top 3 cars in the championship, none of them won a race.
No.
And Kessel, by dint of winning the last 2, have turned around what had been a pretty topsy-turvy season to that point. Row of LMP3 cars in the background.
Of 11 regular teams, after round 3, that Kessel 57 was 10th in the championship. And then all of a sudden, a win at Spa put them into 6th position. And then the win last time out at Mugello meant they leapfrogged a further 5 teams.
Well, no shortage of enthusiasm and talent in that car. Takeshi Kimura, the car guy from Car Guy Racing, We'll see him, I'm sure, again in the Asia Le Mans Series in just a few weeks' time in Sepang. Joined by a big emerging talent in Esteban Masson. He's turning heads in the WC, in the Lexus. And then, of course, Daniel Serra, one of, I think, only 2 drivers to have won the GTE Pro race at the 24 Hours of Le Mans for 2 different manufacturers. Daniel for both Ferrari and Aston Martin, the other Jimmy Bruni for Ferrari and more recently Porsche. That's quite nice company to be in. So we wait until that incident site is cleared. We'll hear the engine notes again. The clock is stopped with 10.5 minutes to go. It's going to be led out by one of the Turbo V6 now, of course, Ferrari 296s. So we've got 6-cylinder, 8-cylinder, and 10-cylinder machines in this field, and it does provide some very different soundtracks. Part of the appeal of GT racing.
Okay, car 12 is being transported back to Parc Fermé, will be resuming on a short call.
And also turbo and non-turbo power plants as well here.
Yeah, so it's a big challenge for those associated with the balance of performance to make sure that the cars are as equal as possible at some very different circuits. Compare this, the shortest track of the season, with Spa-Francorchamps and with Le Mans, for instance, 2 races held there every year. We actually haven't mentioned so far the calendar for next year, because we didn't get the opportunity to do so at Mugello.
It's going to see a first race ever for the Michelin Le Mans Cup at Silverstone, because, of course, in the past occasions on which the European Le Mans Series has visited Silverstone, that's been a double-header with the WC, and it was the race that was missed for the Michelin Le Mans Cup, and for that matter, first races for the Leisure European Series as well. So it will be good to have international sports car racing back in our home country.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Session has resumed. Remind drivers of track limits.
And as we see the cars released, the ACO, LMP3 official at the end of pit lane, Brian Bailey there. The past history as the team manager at Dragon Speed, and therefore with race-winning form in LMP2, in the WC, in the European Le Mans Series, and in IMSA racing, to his credit, before leaving that post and crossing to the other side of the aisle, as they say.
The downside of, if there is a downside at all, of visiting Silverstone next year for the Michelin Le Mans Cup runners is that they won't get to sample proper gelato, because they'll miss the Imola round. There will only be one Italian race in the ELMS next year. And yeah, Imola doesn't happen. But the benefit of that is that they go to Le Mans and race twice there on I assume there's still a Thursday and a Saturday morning configuration. But yeah, no ice cream next year.
Somehow a Cornetto from the BP station down the road or a McFlurry doesn't quite have it, does it?
No, it's not the same.
But,
never has been. But
it is going to be good to bring international sports car racing back after what is going to be a 6-year break to Silverstone. And from what I've seen from the reaction of the fan base in Silverstone through social media, whether that be Twitter or Facebook, the Discord channels, the chats up and down, everybody really keen. Of course they'd like to the FI World Endurance Championship, but I think everybody gets the message. The best way to get that to happen is to show that there's a real fan base at Silverstone, and please do come along. You'll be more than welcome.
And it is a September date, isn't it? So it effectively replaces the Mugello.
It can't possibly be anything other than fabulous weather.
It always is in September.
It's amazing.
And other months.
Come to the UK. For the love of God, come.
But the other thing I like is that it's a European championship. So always the organisers have wanted to go to 6 different European countries. And we haven't had that for the last few years. 2 in Spain, for instance. 2 in Italy last year before last. So we are back, as far as the ELMS is concerned, to 6 completely different countries. Big squirm there from Custodio Toledo. Incidentally, the clock isn't reset, so we don't get 15 minutes back on it after the red flag. The 4 and a bit minutes did kind of count to the session. The clock was stopped, but already we're only 20 seconds away from the halfway point. So you didn't have much time to really go at the start of this session, even less now, and this is a bit of a challenge for the bronze drivers who traditionally get quicker through the course of this qualifying session.
It's a bit of an interruption to that rhythm, isn't it? And rhythm is kind of hard-earned confidence building through these sessions and through the year for these drivers, many of whom are driving machinery at this level for the first time in this championship. I mean, we've seen James Swift before in LMP3 machinery. But here he is aboard the Blackthorn car. He's joined that the last couple of races. This is the car with, I'd say, the Domino's pizza. I'm determined someone's going to notice that and bring us some Domino's pizza.
Nice try.
There might be some gelato as well, you never know. And he's finding his way with Ross Kaiser. Was amazed to hear from Ross Kaiser that this is his first time in a GT race last time out. He's never driven a GT car before. Despite the fact that he's been in a range of prototype machinery, up to and including the prize for the Sunoco Daytona Challenge, and taking part in the then top-class Daytona prototype some years ago at Daytona.
So James Swift to the top in the number 90 Aston from Alex Martin's Stella Motorsport Audi. Just 0.2 of a second between them, and a further 0.45 back to Celia Martin in her Lamborghini. So it's pretty tight at the top.
Well, having said just at the top of the show how much we've had dominance from the Ferraris, the fastest the Ferraris at the moment is fourth.
Yeah.
But there's still time to come.
But sadly, one's already out of the session, and the way the 51 crew like to play it, speaking of which, here is Matt Kurzajewski. It's deliberate to delay slightly with, well, certainly the initial starts to the session. They held this 51 Ferrari in pit lane before sending it out, and Kurzajewski has maybe a bit more flexibility because he can turn it on when he wants to, whereas others just need that bit more time to assess the current conditions. They've been drying stages of this week, and then all of a sudden a massive downpour, which has made the track green again, and all your reference points go, and it's back to square one. So I think from, was it where are we now? We're Friday today. Thursday night was dry. Wednesday night there was a lot of rain.
It was very heavy rain, yes.
And yeah, a few people have said to me in the ELMS paddock that you could sort of tear up the notes they'd made up until that point, because Thursday morning the track was a completely different animal. At least Friday, today and tomorrow are looking dry on the forecast. Now there are yellow flags being shown though on the exit of turn 8, which is that tricky approach through the right-hander at 7 and then a much harder stop at 8. They've been cleared, so that was only a smallish moment.
Yeah, that's...
and Kurzajewski does exactly what I said and goes to the top.
So it's a red flag. It's another red flag.
So that's a crucial time potentially for Kurzajewski. I know they've sealed the championship already, but they want to do well in the season finale. And assuming that lap time will count, we've now only got 4 minutes and 51 seconds left on the clock. Well, that does it does allow enough time for an out lap and one quick one.
And that appears to be...
Oh, it's the Audi.
It's the Audi, and it's been backed into the wall, and that's quite heavy damage to the rear of the Audi from Alex Martin. He was going very well indeed. So it's well off the circuit.
It is a long way off. So is that turn 8? Well, that's 7 in front of us. 8's just to the left of frame. So has he had a moment coming out of 8 and then rotated into the barrier, almost heading towards turn 9?
Oh
it's
dear.
A bizarre off. I can't quite work out how he's ended up. Oh, well, the tyre marks are rather telling. So yes, slipping down the hill with the rotunda in the background. So he's rotated presumably so much that he's gone off then to the, what is the inside of the circuit, between 8 and 9.
Long way. And the problem, of course, you just mentioned what part the problem may well be. We have had an absolute soaking over the last few days. And we arrived on Tuesday evening. The, if you like, for want of a better expression, the infield at Faro Airport. It's an hour down the road. Absolutely saturated. You know, minor flooding there.
Yeah.
And it's going to be much the same on more or less every grassy area around. And if he's gone off there on warm slicks, on damp grass, he'll have gone a long way with no grip.
Well, if anything, you probably gain speed once you've made it to the turf, because it's downhill. There's a barrier, sadly, right at the bottom of the hill as well. So, yeah, that could have been a hard impact.
Got to ask the question, how bad is that damage to that Audi? that does look as if it's in quite a vulnerable spot.
Mid-engined rather than rear, but it's buckled the suspension and potentially a drive shaft as well.
If it wasn't mid-engined before, it certainly is now.
Or rear-engined now, because there's a lot of that car that sort of isn't there anymore. And it will not resume this qualifying session.
Wow.
So that's how important the Kurzajewski time was. I'm hearing nothing about the fact that that Matt needed to go through a yellow flag area whilst he was on the road to improve. I wonder whether that's maybe Alessandro Balzan's concern. No, there's the smile from already the champion, co-champion with Kurzajewski.
Gets the point.
And you get an extra point, so that's a further extension of the championship lead. Not that they need to extend it, but yeah, my only concern was how long had the Audi been there, and therefore was Kurzajewski going the fastest he'd been all session through a yellow flag zone, but I think he was clear of it.
Oh, he was definitely clear of it. But rotten luck there for Stella Motorsport and for Alex Martin. He'd been pushing, he was running second fastest. With where that is, it's not an area, I don't think, where we've got a camera close to either.
No, it's a very, very strange off, and almost as if he was having a moment well after the exit of what is known as Samsung Corner. So a quick glimpse of the Custodio Toledo Ferrari that finished third in the session. James Swift's Aston Martin number 90 from Blackthorn.
Well done to him.
Yes, entirely, because he gets a front row start in the GT3s for tomorrow's race. Cracking effort from James. And Matt Kurzajewski with another pole position for the season in Le Mans Cup. So that will be second or third pole position. I'll just check on tracking back. I've got all the wrong screens open here, which is not ideal. It's only their second pole of the year,
so
bookending the season.
Bookends it. So second, pole at Barcelona. Pole next time out at Le Castellet went to the Iron Dames and Celia Martin. The Road to Le Mans don't get points for pole for those. Spa.
Well, one session at Road to Le Mans didn't even happen. They kind of canned it.
Yeah, Spa, that was Josh Cagle, wasn't it, aboard the car at Spa for Stella Motorsport and the Audi. And then it was Blackthorn's 90 car. Is that the second?
They were on pole and Mugello.
Is that double pole? That is astonishing.
For Blackthorn?
Yeah.
No, because they didn't get pole just now.
Oh, of course they didn't.
They were second, but it's the second row start, front row start, I should say.
That's impressive.
So a pole in Mugello and a second place in Portimão. And the tracking on the graph, yes, it's totally in the right direction. It's a shame for Blackthorn that there's not another race meeting after this, because they're on the crest of a wave. The Audi number 24 from this side of the car doesn't look too bad at all. Looks brand new, in fact, but I'm concerned about the damage to the suspension and potentially drivetrain on the rear left corner.
That's where the impacts come from. You can see that the rear spoiler deranged, and from the other angle we could certainly see that the wheel and its assembly was pointing in entirely the wrong direction. So it has given it quite a biff. But the boys and girls at Stella Motorsport, based very close to Silverstone, by the way, will soon get cracking with that. Photographs being taken of the damage to the barrier there from the recovery crew. This team, relatively recent additions to the Michelin Le Mans Cup entry, with their LMP3 Duquesne back this time as well. And they have plans for a bit of a change in their programme for next season. Lots and lots of teams in this paddock having put their hat in the ring for the potential to step up to the European Le Mans Series. That's going to be a tricky thing to do because of the sheer numbers involved here. There's going to be a lot of cars turned down for the European Le Mans Series for 2025. It's going to be another capacity grid without a shadow of a doubt. But a team not lacking in ambition, and let's hope they can get that car turned around and we can see that car racing tomorrow.
Yeah, they've got some resources to deal with that, and the benefit, I suppose, of this weekend is that we're not racing on the same day as the qualifying session, so they have got overnight, if necessary, to straighten that car out.
Well, that's a bit of a hashtag wait and see moment. We'll pop along after track action's finished for us in the booth. We've got more racing this afternoon with the Ligier European Race 2 to come after this session, and then of course qualifying for the season finale of the European Le Mans Series before we make actually a reasonably early finish for Friday.
Yeah.
In these races with both the Michelin Le Mans Cup and the European Le Mans Series on Saturday, then the rookie test on Sunday here, ahead of further testing the early part of next week. So lots of potential questions to be answered, not just in championship terms, but about the shape of the championship. That is Eduardo Freitas taking a look at that barrier.
It is. It's brand new barrier that has been hit, I think, but just beyond the corner of otherwise sparkling metalwork is clearly a big ding that we can't see, but they're just checking how much work is necessary there. Has it actually torn a hole in one of the layers of arm coat, which will be a major concern? We're already ticking to later than planned because the second Ligier race of the day is due to start at 1:30, so we've still got plenty of time to squeeze in this 15-minute session. But not for the first time this year in either this championship or the World Endurance Championship. Eduardo Freitas having to go down to the shop floor, if you like, and assess the nature, the integrity of the racetrack.
So, Eduardo, remember, not the race director for this grid, that is Glenn Boursier, but he is the senior official here and knows this circuit like the back of his hand, and will know the fastest way to actually get assistance to any repair that is required. So he'll have left Glenn Boursier to attend to matters in race control, and will have offered his assistance to go and deal with anything, any assessment that's needed on site at the incident site.
Meanwhile, if you're an LMP3 team and driver, then you just have to be on a short call and ready to go. With conversations now being had clearly with track staff, Eduardo taking some photographs as well of the extent of the damage. It's right by a marshal post, which thankfully does have a strip of debris fencing as well to protect those flagging. Quite a high point there, up a ladder and into the marshal box itself. But with everybody raring to go, 28 cars all set for this 15-minute session. It's just going to be a bit of a wait by the looks of things.
So quite how long a wait, we're just going to have to wait and see.
Yes.
And that's going to be determined by whether or not a repair is required. Have to tell you that the demeanour there was, I think there is a repair required.
Yes. Well, he was taking photographs and sending them back to the relevant people to make sure that they knew what spares are needed. It is quite easy to replace the horizontal pieces of Armco. They're just bolted together, but the issue is if it's stretched a gap within it, then you may have to cut certain sections out in order to apply the new bits. And also, like you say, those vertical struts in behind may need strengthening too.
So a quick talk about this LMP3 field. 28 cars here for the final round of the 2024 Michelin Le Mans Cup. It is 25 Ligiers, JSP 320s, and 3 Duqueine D08s, all with the very same Orica-prepared Nissan V8 engine, X-Track gearbox, those powertrains spec and supplied by Orica. This is the last Michelin Le Mans Cup race with that spec of car and powertrain, and tomorrow will be also the final race for the European Le Mans Series with those cars. And some, I suspect not all, of the new cars from 4 different chassis manufacturers will be testing here in the coming days. Certainly Ligier is here. I believe we might well see the Ginetta perhaps 1, maybe 2 of the 3 days available. Not got confirmation yet of whether or not the new Duqueine and the new Odesse will make it here. But all 4 chassis manufacturers looking for customers, and why wouldn't you, amongst the dozens of teams that we have on site. Exciting times for the future of what has been a hugely successful junior prototype category, bringing in driver talent, bringing in non-professional driver talent, and the resource that has fueled this astonishing growth in sports car racing, and for that matter bringing in teams that have gone on onwards and upwards. The likes of DKR Engineering coming into prototype racing. Nielsen Racing, another great example of a team that came in through LMP3. United Autosports, yet another. And indeed, repair crew going down there. This is going to need barrier repair, I'm afraid, and that's going to be a little wee while. We'll wait for guidance from race control on just how long. We are told next information at 13:20.
Right.
So it's at least a 20-minute repair that's going to be required here.
Good job, buddy.
Well, what that does is allow drivers to just step away for a moment and take a pause, because the last thing you want to be done is confined in a car in a reasonable temperature when you're not going to be moving in the near future. So a chance to stretch your legs and also recalibrate the brain, because you will have been spending most of the morning going, right, I'm gearing myself up for qualifying, and then all of a sudden it's not happening. Just a chance to get a breather.
Is it a chance, perhaps, Johnny, to talk about where we are in championship positions in LMP3? We said 28 cars. By no means all those 28 are still in the running for the overall honours in this 2024 championship. It's been hard fought and pretty topsy-turvy along the way.
Yeah, there have been various drivers getting pole positions, but also lots of different teams winning races as well. Remember, the points are carried from the Road to Le Mans events too, but actually the first of those normally award half points, but they've awarded effectively quarter points because there are only 4 laps completed or deemed as legal at the end of that fairly disastrous race midweek leading up to the 24 hours of Le Mans. It was a better one on Saturday. And then since then we've had Spa and Mugello, but it's Fabien Michel and Adrien David who took the race lead at Mugello after their win and pole position, so jumping ahead of Adrian Schiller and David Drew, who had been leading up until that point.
But the leading crew do have a potential problem here, don't they? Because they are one of the crews that has got a pit stop handicap this time. Fabien Michel, a mighty 42 seconds. This is a handicap that is built in based on championship position and position in the previous race and the performance of the crew. So one of 3 cars that are going to have a fairly hefty biff from that. The second place crew, Adrian Schiller and David Drew, do not have that handicap, and they are, 5.5 points back. Third place crew of Jans Reino Muller and Tommy Foster, they're quite some way back. It's mathematically possible, but it does need the 2 crews ahead of them to have a really bad day. They don't have a pit stop handicap either, and neither too do Ben Stone, who I think is sitting there, Ben Stone with Theodore Jensen, and Adrian Closemil and James Sweetnam. Theoretically can still do it, needs pole and the win, and for none of the cars ahead of him to finish the race. But this is the Michelin Le Mans Cup.
Well,
Stranger things have happened.
It could happen.
It could happen. But none of those other cars have got that pit stop penalty, and it's 42 seconds, Johnny. Now that could come to nothing if there's a safety car following that penalty, that handicap
yes,
being built.
Entirely.
But if we do run long and run green, that's going to make it very difficult indeed for RSGP to do this on pace.
42 seconds plus the 170 seconds that everybody has to serve. That's 3.5 minutes sitting in the pit lane in the middle of the race, where you've done your driver change, you've probably changed tyres, you've certainly fueled the car, and then you just have to sit there waiting for that clock to so painfully tick down. But yes, this is as a result of assessing the performance of the various teams over the last couple of races, and a means of equalising the performance of some very quick bronze drivers. The other thing about Fabien Michel is that he's very, very consistent. Not only is he quick, but he can do those quick times with great consistency over and over again. So others will, up and down the order, will be quite happy to see that 42 seconds, because finally, you know, a bit more of a levelling of the playing field.
We have seen that car pull away from the field at pretty alarming rates in the past.
The bronze stint, yeah, the opening part of the race, too right.
So, you know, to say that's a leveller would be, I think, an overstatement. I think it is a proper handicap. but it's going to be, how much of a handicap is going to be determined by just what happens in this race tomorrow. So we're still waiting. We will have more information on the restart of this session. That's come after damage to the barriers outside of turn 8 caused by an incident for the Stella Motorsport Audi going backwards into the barriers there, and pretty clearly some barrier repair and or replacement is required. We've seen the maintenance crews, the repair crews en route there, and we're told the next information in 15 minutes time. So what it comes down to is, mathematically there are 6 crews that can still take this championship tomorrow.
Yes.
That could come down to being 5 crews depending on who sets pole position today. So pole position today is pretty critical.
True.
And depending on count back, that could be 2 crews that are counted out today, because one of them is so close that if they don't set pole position, we can reasonably easily look at count back as to see whether or not they could do it. So we could end this session, Johnny Palmer, with just 3 crews that could actually set the championship after this session.
So you would rule out, certainly rule out the 87 Cool Racing crew. I'm talking about if RHGP take pole, so they've increased their lead to by a further point, go to 68. There's then only 25 available, which will go back to therefore 43 points for Breton Racing. But if Breton finish equal on points, you don't fancy the count back really, because they've only won 1 race, so 1 win, 1 second, versus RHGP. That's 1 win, 1 second. But we're also thinking that our race on that scenario have won the final race here at Portimão as well.
No, we'd be thinking about to win it, Breton would have to win it.
Oh, sorry,
and
yes.
they would then on 2 wins and would win it on count back.
You're quite right. Yeah, of course.
Just a moment to actually talk about those 2 teams. They're both debuting teams in the championship this year. They're both in championship contention in a deep and very competitive and increasingly an experienced field. So congratulations to them for just being in this conversation. RHGP, a team with major success in single-seater racing, but Breton Racing, an absolutely brand new team, Czech flagged, made their debut in LMP3 in the Asia Le Mans Series last season, and have come here with 2 cars. In one of the cars, we've had a little bit of a change of driver squad through the season, but they've had more consistency than most, and that's brought them to the stage where they are at least still in the conversation. To say they're in contention in my meaning of the word means that you go out there and you beat the other car. To beat the other car's got a non-finish here. So it's not a racing contention, but it is part of the championship fight.
And therefore deserving of mention for sure. But realistically, it's a fight between 2 teams, 85 RHGP and the 97 Cool Racing crew with their regular drivers. So Fabien Michel and Adrien David. Michel's been the qualification specialist all year. I mean, apart from the 2 Road to Le Mans races, Michel has taken every single pole so far this season. And it's always him that does it because it's a bronze-only session, just like the GT3s. So in Barcelona, in Le Castellet, in Spa, in Mugello, this could be a clean sweep, therefore, of the more regular rounds of the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Where they've struggled is in their race results, because it is a surprise to me to look at just 1 race win so far. 1 second place.
They've had some pretty awful luck in terms of reliability. I think they've had at least 1 pretty major accident as well this season. It is great to see the depth of competition we've got in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, but when you then take into account what this championship is here to do, it's here to establish talent and establish a competitive level. And that does mean that we do have a very wide range of experience and talent in this field. And it does mean that sometimes a quicker and a more experienced crew can be the victim of somebody else's mistake.
Yes.
And that has been a feature throughout the near decade-long history of the championship. And RHGP have on occasion suffered the slings and arrows of somebody else's outrageous fortune, as have others in this field. It adds, if you're here and watching this as a interested spectator and a fan, boy oh boy does it add the drama quotient here. There's never been any shortage of drama from the Michelin Le Mans Cup. But the championship organisers, LMEM, looking to make a step next year, not just with the switch of machinery, but also, as we told you last time out, with the addition of another class within the LMP3 order for silver-gold pairings or double silver pairings, as well as having a necessary bronze driver as part of the two-driver crew.
Yeah. Yeah, so some big changes coming over the winter period. New ways of powering these cars, new cars as well, and also, yes, this extra category that will be brought to the fore for 2025. So it's exciting times to be involved in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, and clearly the landscape is changing. One or two are massively looking forward to that. One or two, I think it's fair to say, are going to consider their options for the future, though, as well.
There comes a point, there's going to be a change of the guard, there's no doubt. I think we're going to see some exciting new names in this championship next season. I think we're going to see some drivers that have been part of this field for a long time decide that actually maybe they either want to move onwards, upwards, sideways, or simply, as all of us do from time to time with things we enjoy, decide it's time to stop.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Bumped into Tony Wells at breakfast this morning. He was reminding me his belief is that the only two drivers that remain in this field that were part of the have been part throughout of the history in LMP3 are himself and Colin Noble. They no longer share the car together, of course. They won that first race. They were on the front row of that first race, pipped to it by Jean Glorieux, I think it was, in that season. And yet he's going to make a decision once he's had a look at the new cars, once he's had a think about those new regulations, whether or not he thinks there's still an opportunity to contend for the overall win and decide what his future has in store.
But 2017 was the first year of LMP3s becoming a regular part of the Le Mans Cup. They guessed it at Le Mans in 16 to the GT3 Le Mans Cup, but it became a two-runged race series in 17. So actually celebrating 2025, the 10th year of the Michelin Le Mans Cup. So whilst this pause continues, a chance to catch up with our current championship leader.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Michelin Le Mans Cup pit lane. I am joined by Adrian David, driver of the number 85 R-Race GP. Fabio Michel also, who is preparing for qualifying. He's just over there if he wants to give us a wave. He's very much in the zone, I'll say. But Adrian, it's been a long championship, a long season so far. You guys are in a really good position, but the pressure's on this weekend.
The pressure is on, but I think we are not, well, we are leading in the championship, but we are not really leading because we will have a big penalty in the race. So we are more in the hunting position this weekend. So the target is, of course, to have a good qualifying. I hope there will be a qualifying session with the crash of GT3. And if we have so, hopefully Fabien will do the job as he did previously in the 4 qualifying session where he got pole position. And if we start in the front, hopefully we can score good points, even if we have a big penalty, and get the championship. Yeah.
Are you hoping for a safety car in the race tomorrow to try and mitigate that penalty? I mean, it's often odd to hope for the safety car. You want as much driving time as possible, but it's a bit counterintuitive.
Well, I want the first stint of Fabien without any safety car, so he can create the gap if he starts in the front. And then in my stint, I wish we can have a safety car, a full course yellow. Would help a lot, yes.
All right, and how has your pace been so far in the practice sessions?
Very happy with the car. We struggled a bit on Wednesday. We improved a lot on Thursday, and hopefully we can convert the good progression today. Fabien was feeling very fast on new tires, so hopefully he can get the pole position.
All right, best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that Adrian says, if there is a qualifying session, because I suppose there is an option to grid them up in championship order if the session cannot run. But the beauty of today's timetable is that we have quite a bit of flexibility at the end of it. We already said it's an early finish, certainly for the ACO ruled regular championships. As far as the support categories are concerned, we've already had a Porsche qualifying session.
Yes, we have.
There'll be one race for the Porsche Carrera Cup France later today as well. But that could run, say, at 5 o'clock if necessary. I'm just checking the timetable to see what the actual time for that is at the moment.
Well, you take a look at that. I'll just remind anybody joining us later on. This is a pause. It's not a red flag to this session. We haven't started the LMP3 session. This comes after a foreshortened GT3 session. Foreshortened, interrupted, and then foreshortened by two separate incidents. One was a hit at the barriers on the exit of turn 4 for one of the Kessel Racing Ferraris. Driver is fine, car a little crunched. And then after getting the session underway and with some times on the board, unfortunately, heavy shunt for the Stellar Motorsports Audi, the number 24 car, went in backwards at the exit of turn 8, a very unusual accident, and that has done some damage to the barriers, and they are being repaired / replaced at that point. So we're on pause, and we're told the next message, next update we will get will be in about 4 minutes. In fact, that's just moved back. It's 14 minutes now.
Right.
So clearly that's repair underway and reasonably extensive. I'm afraid that graphic is out of date. That it does say next information at 13:20. Our timing screens have just popped up to say it's now 13:30.
That will change in a moment.
That's absolutely fine. So we wait with these 28 LMP3 cars eager to go. No indication, by the way, that the option that was suggested there by Adrian David is under immediate consideration. And now corrected. Next information is indeed at 13:30. But there is always an option if they're feeling as if they're pressed on time to grid up either on the basis of free practice times or indeed championship positions. I don't see that as being the option that's going to be taken at this point, Johnny.
Well, there's a Porsche Carrera Cup France race due to start at 4:45 on initial timetable. I reckon sunset here is about 10 to 7.
Yeah.
But the sunset's always very quick in this part of the world. And, well, if you started that Porsche race at even 6 o'clock, they'd probably get it in. So we have got a bit of wriggle room, and the benefit of not running the Michelin Le Mans Cup race this Friday evening. That's tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, Steph Wentworth is headed elsewhere in the pit lane to see who she can find.
Welcome back, everyone. I am joined in the pit lane by David Drew, driver of the Cool Racing. You guys are chasing in the championship right now, so every point matters. How important is this qualifying session? Yeah, for sure. It's maybe the most important qualifying of the year. We are expecting to do a good qualifying, to be in a good group for the race, and yeah, it will be really tight, I think. And you are fighting with RACGP for the championship. They've got quite a hefty penalty tomorrow. Do you think you'll be able to use that to your advantage? It's always hard to say. It depends a lot on the, what's happening during the race. I mean, we just try to do our best, and then we'll see. Actually, that's the only thing we can do, I think. And you and Adrian, you've had this brilliant partnership throughout the whole season. You've worked really, really well together. Yeah, we get along really well. We know each other for quite a long time now, and it's actually fun because we never got to drive together before, and this year Cool made the choice to make us together, and I think it was a great decision. We're really happy about this. Right, you get back to him, debrief ahead of qualifying, and best of luck. Thank you.
Well, just to update again, 13:30 local. That is now 11 minutes away or so before we get information about those barrier repairs. It is a different rhythm to this final race weekend of the season on a packed European Le Mans Series package, Johnny. Already had one of the Ligier European Series races. That championship still to be decided in JSP4, the little Ligier prototypes. The race this morning did decide the GT spec Ligiers in the hands of Pegasus Racing. David Cossonel and Julien Schell taking that for Pegasus Racing this morning. But join us for that race later on. That's a little later on this afternoon. Still qualifying to come, of course, for the LMP3s here. Qualifying as well to come for the European Le Mans Series. With a twist here, with a new trophy, which I don't think you'll see today. I think that's going to be presented tomorrow.
Indeed.
And we should
mention
mention
the start of the race.
We should mention why. We've been made extraordinarily welcome in the years that the European Le Mans Series, and for that matter, the FIWC through COVID years, have been coming to this fabulous Circuit de Algarve here, just in the hills above Portimão. And a big part of that was one of the founders and the CEO of this circuit, Paolo Pinheiro, whose son Bernardo Pinheiro has been part of the ladder here for the past couple of years as well. And Paolo very sadly passed away suddenly earlier this year. Shock to everybody that knew him, and a shock in particular to the motorsport racing family as a whole, and even more particularly to the very tight-knit racing family here in Portugal. And we mourn him, and we join his son and his family in doing that. There is a fantastic new trophy that is going to be offered in his memory for pole position today for tomorrow's race, and you will see that trophy presented tomorrow. Repairs getting underway quickly at that site. We can't see that site from this angle, I'm afraid, to see the extent of the damage, but it clearly is reasonably extensive. So, as I say, with a twist, this is no, how can we put this? It's no off-the-shelf item. This is a truly impressive piece of silverware that every single team and driver will want to take home from here. And this Portimão circuit, Johnny, we never really know what to expect, do we? Last year, it threw weather at us in a very big way. Last year,
yes, true, yeah.
Last year, because weather was thrown at Imola, we didn't manage to race there. So we had 2 races here for the European Le Mans Series last year, but it was a fabulous finale again. There are always surprises here. Everybody that comes to view here is just delighted by the access and the way in which you can follow just about every twist and turn of this circuit. And of course, we're all eager to get track action back underway so we can get meaningful laps under the wheels of these cars and points on the board.
And that's another reason why it's so important to remember Paolo Pinheiro, because without him, this track wouldn't be here. He conceiving and undertaking the construction of AIA, as it is known, not far from Portimão itself, about a 20-minute drive or so from the town. But he was also instrumental in the return of the Portuguese Grand Prix, which at the time in 2020 hadn't happened since the mid-90s. That was in Estoril, and had been at Estoril further up the coast, not far from Lisbon, for 12 years or so. But during COVID, when F1 were seeking out more accessible points, they suddenly discovered the Portuguese circuit here at the Algarve International and thought, God, this is a good place. Why has this not been on the calendar before? And came back in 2021 as well. And it was Paolo Pinheiro who was instrumental in making sure that Formula One did return to Portugal, and indeed MotoGP to this venue as well. So an incredible shock, as you've said, at only 52 years old, and quite right that we should award a pole position trophy in his name and his honour. In fact, tomorrow, but the pole position competition will be held later on today. Quite when exactly, we're not sure, because it's very much a fluid timetable now.
Indeed.
And the next information appearing in 7 minutes.
Yeah.
I keep hearing wheel guns, and I keep thinking that's actually the work being done on the Armco. It will be sounding similar to that if they're having to saw sections out. And this happens a lot at Le Mans. It certainly happens a lot on the Nürburgring Nordschleife as well, when barriers are very close to the edge of the track. In this scenario, actually the Armco barrier was a long way from the edge of the track, and I don't think I've ever seen a car head that far away. But you made the good point about the grass and the mud nearby being absolutely sodden from an awful lot of rain prior to, thankfully, the sun breaking and providing us with 2 clear days, what should be 2 clear days of weather today and tomorrow. But just picking up pace, that Audi, and will have clattered into the barrier at a decent speed, unlike Fred Jose, who had already had a moment to bring out an initial red flag in the GT3 session as well. Jose's Ferrari will need to be repaired, and a large amount of the diffuser pulled away from that, because that was wedged in the Armco.
It was. I mean, what I would say about the Ferrari could well be that is principally carbon fibre and bodywork. And remember, a fundamentally different piece of kit. It's a much more modern piece of GT3 machinery. Those astonishing front and rear clips that will take off, well, basically it's about 20% of the front and the rear of the car with just 2 fasteners. And it's possible that just with that and a refit or a repair to the rear diffuser, the rear floor, that car could be okay. We wait to find out just exactly what the story is from Stella Motorsport about the fate of the Audi. Let's hope we get it back. Always great to see an Audi in endurance racing. One of the last to the line.
I thought I heard engines
You did.
starting then, so maybe we're not too far away now.
Well, 4.5 minutes to the point where we're promised the next information. They were moving on at a pace in that repair.
And it may well be that the next message at 1:30 is the session will restart on a short call, so maybe it's better to hedge your bets and get engines restarted as early as possible. Because the other thing is, you want to be able to get engines up to a working temperature as well. Oil needs to be warmed in order for it to be efficient. But there's still one Manitou on the scene, a Hiab as well. So quite a lot of work still ongoing. They're going to be lowering new sections of Armco in there and then making sure that they are rigid and bolted correctly as well, because if one car can find its way there, rare as it is, then the same thing could happen in this session and later on in the weekend too.
Indeed. So, just reflecting, Johnny, on the success of this format. Numerically, it's obvious. Look at it. This is the biggest field of LMP3 cars anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
It's an astounding sight to see that number of cars, and the Ligier in particular, the JSP 320 in its current form, the JSP 3 as it used to be prior to 2020, and the 325 as it's going to be from next year. I think the most successful LMP car in numerical terms of all time.
Okay.
I think it's around 200 of those cars have been built now. It's something like, in LMP2 terms, the Oreca, we're approaching around 120 of those chassis built now. But it's significantly more for the little Ligier, with racing around the world, whether or not it's in the ACO package here in the ELMS and the Michelin Le Mans Cup, the Asian Le Mans Series. It did its time, of course, in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, now in the VP Sports Car Challenge. The German Prototype Championship we've had until the end of this year. It is part of the Ultimate Cup. That switches to a new championship next year, and an array of other championships that welcome LMP3 machinery. A short-lived British LMP3 championship.
Yes.
A part of that. So it has been a spectacular success. And talking to the teams who've owned and run these cars, it's something that's allowed them to develop skill sets, customer bases, to get that foot on the ladder, to do what so many people here dream of. Not just the drivers, the team owners, the team bosses, the mechanics and the PR people and the media people and the fans get to the Le Mans 24 hours. So in the case of the LMP3 cars, get to race on the full Le Mans circuit, which they've been doing now, as I say, for about a decade.
Yeah. Just looking back, we actually had 40 LMP3 cars at the Road to Le Mans event this year. So 28 today. A season high in the bread and butter rounds was 29 at Le Castellet.
And a fair number of the ELMS cars on that grid as well, of course, because those are teams that, unless they've won the championship and earned an LMP2 place, that's their route to getting their cars, their customers, their brand in front of one of the biggest sports audiences in the world. 350,000 people again on site alone at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And beyond that, you know, with the efforts of your team, the Radio Le Mans team on site, and our team, my team, the WCTV, the Le Mans TV and the Eurosports crews, bringing it to an audience numbering likely in the billions.
That's not just in Graham's head, by the way.
No,
that is a reality.
That's not just in terms of a live audience, but in terms of, in this modern era, you know, whether or not it's clips of on-track action, whether or not it's Martin Haven's latest outrage at 4:30 in the morning, whatever it is, it brings with it a massive fan base and a massive awareness that that is a sporting event of absolutely world class. Closing in, it is now 13:30, so we wait the next information from race control.
There was a time when this championship led to an automatic invitation to the following year's 24 Hours of Le Mans. That's not the case anymore.
No, they do get, however, an invitation to join the European Le Mans Series.
Right.
So, and that's going to be an interesting one for next season. There is
and that's going to be a part of the season 2025 as well, we think.
I think so. So, I mean, what I'm expecting at the moment is that, you know, the two clear front runners here, Cool Racing and RHGP. Could we see RHGP in the European Le Mans Series for the first time?
And not necessarily at LMP3 level. It might even be, oh, we're getting another update in another 15 minutes' time, I'm afraid.
Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, there's quite a lot of Armco now missing, with Eduardo still standing there.
Well, look, we're going to stay on air, I believe. So let's do what we do in these circumstances. Let's chuck it open. If you're listening to us and listening in, and we'll offer it in two ways. Any questions for Johnny and I, or anything that you feel we can help you with to understand, pop something on Twitter. It is at Blackpool. That's Blackpool spelt like the terrible football team. Johnny, Jonny.
Getting better.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's been spent about 30 years getting better.
All things are relative. Or at DSC Editor, just pop us a question in and put hashtag Portimão. Hashtag Portimão will do it. And as well as which, we know there's some faithful fans on a couple of the Discord servers, so you know which ones I follow. Please do pop in any questions you've got there, and we'll do what we can to add to your viewing pleasure whilst we watch the large truck nail things back to posts.
Is this the equivalent of the drying paint scenario?
It's drying paint or welding barrier.
Yeah.
It's like
and it could be turned into a sport, like most things could.
You know what? That's not a bad idea. If you're listening,
we need
ACO,
another team to the left of this also trying to build an Armco wall and a race between them.
Absolutely. We had this at Spa with Earl Bamber doing a great job of firing the starting gun on an epic rebuild of much of the barriers along the Kemmel Straight. Thanks for that, Earl.
Yes.
You know, we've had it just about everywhere. As you can see, you are part of the team that covers the Nürburgring 24 hours. Boy, do they get some practice at that. They've even got a price list available for the public for that one if you go around on your tourist car.
That's a very good point, yeah.
So if you are going around in your road car and you do hit those barriers,
there is a catalogue available.
It is going to cost you.
Of certain lengths of Armco layers, the amount that you want to be replaced.
Well, it's not what you want, it's that's going to happen and you're going to pay for. Yeah. And that does not come in the hundreds. That is a four-figure sum.
Easily.
It's going to be a very expensive day out.
Try and get any insurance company around the world to pay for that, and it's difficult. It's very difficult. And particularly when you take your road car out onto the Nordschleife, forget about normal insurance. They kind of just overlook that entirely. So yes, the crews here at Portimão will be used to having to do this maybe after a race weekend. The tricky thing is making sure all of the trucks and all of the parts are in the right positions to do it during the race day. But as I say, at least we have the benefit of the two big races this weekend being held tomorrow, rather than normally the Le Mans Cup race an hour and 50 minutes on a Saturday night, Friday night as it would be here. And then time pressures really would be at a premium. But we still have a little bit of flexibility.
By the way, I did, of course, miss another opportunity for people to feed back to us because I'm watching our screens. I've not got it live, but I will do in a moment. There is, of course, a chat on the YouTube stream. Do feel free to pop in a question or 9 there, and we'll do what we can. In the meantime, the answer to the first question that comes in is, I do admit that it is a fantastic self-care regime I've got. It's a mix of aloe vera and some very rare Southeast Asian plants, and I'm very pleased with the effect as well.
Plus gelato.
Plus gelato.
Yeah. And mentions of various pizza makers that happen to be sponsors of racing cars, because Graham and I
we're very fond of pizza.
A fan of the old bread, cheese,
bread-based
food
food stuffs.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. So, you know, to fill the time, if any of those sponsors want to pop into our little box to bring us some snackage, then we'd be most grateful for that as well. Ligier European Race 2, Championship decider to come after this 15-minute session.
And pretty clearly will be, you know, at a somewhat flexible time now.
Well, so yeah, I was just thinking, put your shoes, or put your feet in the shoes of those drivers that are thinking, right, we've got a championship to win here, but they have no idea when it's going to happen. So that's very, very tricky too. Adds an extra element.
So, okay, let's see what we can get stuck into. What is an LMP3 car, Johnny? Well, let's answer that question. To this point, LMP3 has been a choice of 4 different chassis makers. 2 of them you can see in that row there. Principally what you're looking at is Ligier, the JSP 320 chassis with a smattering of Duqueine D08s. 2 not represented here, Ginetta from Yorkshire, the UK, and a Des based down in, I think, in Spain nowadays. It's a German company, German-owned company based in Spain. If you are fans of the European Le Mans Series, or indeed the WEC in the Le Mans 24 Hours, you will have seen an ADES chassis because the H24, the hydrogen fuel cell technology demonstrator, is based on an ADES LMP3 chassis. If you've been following the Michelin Le Mans Cup and the European Le Mans Series for some time, Ginetta's original LMP3 chassis was the first to race and indeed won the first championship in the hands of Charlie Robertson and Sir Chris Hoy. And if you're listening and watching, Chris, hope you're well. Hope recovery is continuing. They dominated for the first year before Ligier came in with the then new JSP3 and won the numbers game. So that's the chassis choice. Cost capped as a package, and cost capped as well with a spares package, all to try to keep costs under control and encourage more people to turn towards this form of endurance racing. And all of them powered by 400 horsepower plus Nissan V8 to the end of this year in this championship and in the LMS with an X-Track gearbox. That is changed after this weekend for the LMS and the Michelin Le Mans Cup to a new twin-turbo Toyota-based V6. But again, all those blueprinted powertrains produced by Orica in the south of France. So every single one of these cars, whether it's a Duqueine, whether it's a Ligier, or indeed if we had a Ginetta or an ADES here, would have exactly the same engine and gearbox. That's what it is. It's designed to come in at a price point that is attractive, way below what you'd be spending on an LMP2 car, or for that matter, a GT car. And that allows smaller teams to come in and get a foot on the ladder. And very many of those teams, by the way, Johnny, now feature in GT and or LMP2 racing around the world. It also adds, by the way, the opportunity for very many of these teams to have a junior program, a development program. And looking down the order here, so Nielsen Racing certainly now here in the European Le Mans Series with 2 LMP2 cars. Racing Spirit Le Mans leading the GT3, LMGT3 Championship, or rather on equal points with Kessel Racing in the European Le Mans Series. High Class Racing, they've been long time LMP2 since 2017. And others too. But meantime, time to pop down again to the pit lane where Steph Wentworth is speaking to another of our key contenders.
Bit of a different angle from me. Hello from down here. I am joined by Ben Stone of the number 62 Breton Racing, who, as you can see, is still stuck inside this car waiting. How are you finding it in there?
Well, it's pretty comfy in here, so it's not too bad, but I think we've been waiting nearly an hour now. I have been out of the car in that time, so I'm not just sitting here, but yeah, it's okay.
We know this qualifying session is quite an important one to you. How much does it mean?
Well, we're fourth in the championship with an outside shot, definitely in the top 3, so yeah, it's very important. Qualifying means a lot in this championship, so I'm going to try and send it.
and you guys have hit kind of your stride at the minute with a win and then a second place as well in the last race. So it feels like things are really building for you.
Yeah, we got pretty lucky at Spa, to be honest, but the Mugello round, last round, was more on pace, so that was cool. And yeah, find ourselves fourth with this race to go. So yeah, it's been a good run.
All right, hope we get underway soon. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steph. Thanks, Ben. We are getting a couple of questions. Let's kind of crack on with a couple of those. Luke Hansel's asking, we've talked about crashing on the Nordschleife and your insurance. Check your insurance. Vast majority of insurance policies that I've ever looked at specifically exclude the Nürburgring, the Nordschleife. And we also got a question that basically says, hang on a second here, it says that we need to prove that we're monitoring by saying my name. Well, I am going to prove that we're monitoring by reading out the question, but I'm not going to say your name just to be opposite about it. So all sorts of stuff. Wesman44 says, who's the pit reporter? It's Steph Wentworth, little Steph, from the northwest of England, my area, my neck of the woods in my youth. And Steph, who does, you'll see Steph all over motorsport, whether or not that is here with the European Le Mans Series paddock, does work around in Formula E and in Formula One as well, with all sorts of presentational stuff, and she's been a great addition over the last couple of seasons to this team, and she's doing fine work up and down the pit lane while we wait for the next information at 13:45, which is just 3.5 minutes away. So still work underway, and still I can see a section of Armco there in the process of being fitted. What we look for at these moments is the evidence of machinery being removed from a site rather than added to a site. So quiet on pit lane. And see young Steph there. The towering form of Steph Wentworth, by the way. It's give us a wave, Steph. There she is, giving us a wave. But Steph, difficult to see from this angle, but she's about 6'8". Just hides it incredibly well. As you can see, those LMP3 cars quite tall, and in no way is Steph Wentworth 5'2", as most people would infer. That would be an outrageous slur.
That's generous.
So cruise underway with these repairs. Beginning to get to the end of that. I think it is going to go a little bit beyond 13:45, but after that, stick with us because it's going to be fast and furious action for the rest of the afternoon with Ligier European Series and European Le Mans Racing and European Le Mans Series qualifying still to come this afternoon. And if, by the way, if you're looking to fill the gap with anything other than putting the kettle on or cracking open an adult beverage and some snacks, then do find the online broadcast for Porsche Carrera Cup France, which are with us again this weekend, Johnny.
Yes, I'm still here, folks, by the way. We had a bit of an emergency in our little commentary position because one of our key screens just decided to turn itself off. Maybe because of the lack of action, it decided to have a mid-afternoon snooze. But thank you to Jerome, who has just popped into our booth to correct that. Sadly, our track map is still painted in red. Yeah. After the second red flag of the GT3 session. We knew, what, 45 minutes or so ago now, maybe even an hour ago, that would not restart. And we've been waiting ever since for this 15-minute session for the LMP3s to begin. So we wait and see what occurs. I think, as I say, with repairs still underway, whilst we are being told next information at 13:45, it's not quite there with that repair, but doesn't look that far away. They are fitting things to things rather than taking things off things now. That's a good point, yes. So nothing actually going in the ground. No. That hard work has already been done.
Yeah. So
difficult from our perspective because we don't know how much damage was actually done. It looked absolutely fine from our side.
It's easy for us. I could just sit here moaning my coffee's gone cold, but I'm not having as bad a day as people that are actually out there hammering things in.
No, true. And those having to make the decisions as well. And really having to bite the bullet, because you could do a quick fix purely for this session, but that doesn't help the rest of the day and how that pans out. So better, I suppose, to do all the hard work now. So and hope to goodness that the Armco doesn't get hit again.
We do need to remind ourselves, Johnny, that this is Friday. It's not actually yet the weekend. And if you are listening and at work, we'll do this so the boss can't hear.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so keep it quiet.
If you've got a clever sort of two-screen setup,
yes,
or you know, just an extra tab, so when the boss wanders over, you can flick to a spreadsheet of, I don't know, data.
Or the alternative is get a better boss.
True. One that's into endurance, sports car racing.
Have, you know, maybe in a social moment at work, just introduce them to endurance racing and get them as enthused that you all undoubtedly are, having stuck with us for the better part of an hour for a 15-minute session. But that's my suggestion.
It's good.
Worked for me.
Well, I was going to say Stephen Kilby, who regularly works for you, but is not here this weekend. Killer, we're missing you.
You say work.
Yeah. But when you wander over, you tell him off if he's not watching sports car racing.
Not tell him off, he's fired.
Slap him about.
Stephen actually missing his first European Le Mans Series race, I think, for a couple of seasons. He's with another sports car racing happening this weekend. It's the Ferrari Finale Mondiale this weekend at Imola, which is one of the reasons why Nick Nielsen, who would normally be in the European Le Mans Series, is not here. Some exciting stuff to come from there later in the weekend as part of the endurance racing family. But yep, it's a reasonably full press room here this weekend for Friday, Saturday meeting. Beginning to get engines starting. Next information is now being told top of the hour.
Yeah, so this is now getting a bit of a concern, bearing in mind ELMS qualifying is not a process of a short moment. There are 4 different sessions to get in for that, plus the Ligier European Series race, which is a 60-minute affair, but obviously there's formation lap, slowing down lap, a podium, and then the Porsches as well, with a sunset at 10 to 7 tonight. So it is, if we lose, let's say, another 30 minutes, this is going to be a bigger issue for organisers.
Indeed, and on the chat, thanks for acknowledging it. I'm going to try and pronounce it. Effigens says it's going to introduce the ACO racing tomorrow at the company dinner, as long as we agree to let the number 24 Nielsen car win outright. That might be a stretch, but it's hotly contended. But thanks for sticking with us. And if you do need any help with a presentation to your company at that dinner, Johnny and I day rates are remarkably reasonable.
Very competitive indeed, yeah. Pizza mainly. Paid in pizza?
Pizza and beer.
Pizza and beer.
Pretty simple.
Are our basic rates.
Yeah. Usually a bucket of cash as well.
Oh, that's nice,
yeah,
to buy more pizza.
And beer.
So it's simple, really. That's what it says on our official website. I can't remember the address off the top of my head, but you'll find it. Just stick it into your favourite search engine.
Yep. Encouraging words, by the way, from... it's a familiar name. The way it works here, when you get something on a kind of WhatsApp, is it... Because I get confused when you've got people whose first name and second names are both first names. Is it in the right order, or am I responding to a guy called Gavin Oliver?
You might be.
It could be anybody, really. He says, keep digging, mate. And he points out, as I was remembering...
In reference to what, particularly? What, just this whole situation?
It's red flag.
Keep digging. Thanks for your support, Gavin.
Yeah, it's reminding me of the very start of the Asia Le Mans Series in 2022, when driver came out in the first 15 seconds of the very first qualifying session. Our first live broadcast that season nutted it through the barrier, and we had something like an hour and 20 minutes on the red flag while they completely rebuilt, not just the Armco, but all of the support structures as well. So, yeah.
Excellent.
That felt like a very long hour. But Ollie Gavin, of course, sports car racing legend. And as I was pointing out, by the way, last weekend, Petit Le Mans, the end of the IMSA season, what a cracking race that was. And I was having a conversation with Ollie's old PR man from his 20 years in GM racing, and pointing out 5 times Oliver Gavin won the Petit Le Mans race for Corvette.
Yes.
But what doesn't get remotely as much attention as those 5 wins is the 14 times he lost.
That's true.
So,
When he
for
was
me,
known as Gavin Oliver.
The strike rate, not great, if you ask me. 14 losses to 5 wins.
It's terrible.
Doesn't sound good, does it?
If you're a football manager and got that sort of statistic, you'd be gone.
You try spotting that statistic at the bottom of any General Motors press release, and you're a better man than I.
Yeah, you would have written it just to throw expose him for the lack of success rather than any small amount that he's clinging on to.
Yep.
I am reminded with the Armco situation here of a story I've been told many times about when the Birmingham Super Prix
Good grief,
ran
yes.
in 1986 for the first time, I think. They were about to send the cars out for the first free practice session and all of a sudden realised that there's a lot of Armco around the streets of Birmingham in order to have that circuit in place. There was Armco overlap involved, and somehow it had been constructed with the overlap in the wrong direction.
Oh!
So all of a sudden, they had to start unbolting Armco. Everything. All where gaps where cars would need to be recovered, marshal posts, and that happened at the start of the day on presumably Thursday or Friday.
It's like...
And Brian Jones,
the
much missed Brian Jones now, kind of ran out of stuff to say after about 2 hours.
It's like, the only thing I can equate that to, and a very generous birthday present from my beloved brother, of some very lovely Lego Technics. And there was one particular Lego, there's a Peugeot hypercar that he bought me.
I've seen it.
And
not that particular one, but I know it's available.
And I managed to miss a page in the construction details.
Yes.
And to say that it was a bigger job to disassemble it rather than assemble it would be an understatement.
And those instructions are deliberately designed for somebody like you. There are no words.
There's no words, just pictures,
Graham.
just point,
But you missed a page.
Did I read? Yeah, no. Did I read yesterday that we're going to see a street race in the Midlands again? That the Rallycross is coming to a street circuit in Coventry.
They've tried doing some events on the Coventry Ring Road in the past, but not races. That's demonstration runs.
I think it might be coming.
But it's always a kind of early attempt to try and get racing back, not necessarily in the Midlands, but in the UK on the street. That's very exciting if that might happen.
I'm just going to caught you. Just looking at some of the messages coming in on the chat here on YouTube, and there's 2 or 3 people getting stuck into this Oliver Gavin chap. I'll be honest with you, 2 or 3 of you isn't enough.
No,
far more. That we need to pour in on.
Well, we need at least 14, don't we, to represent the 14 Petit Le Mans that he didn't win?
Well, I think that would, in itself could make a great podcast. Ollie, take us through what you did wrong those 14 occasions.
1 per episode. I'd listen.
Ollie Gavin, my co-commentator for the Asia Le Mans series, which is, by the way, the next, after the season finale for the FI World Endurance Championship in Bahrain, will be the next ACO Championship to get underway in Sepang in early December. Double header there with fair number of the teams and drivers that feature this weekend. It's another championship that's oversubscribed, Johnny. 40 plus cars across GT3, LMP3 and LMP2 for what will be 3 double header race meetings. Sepang in December, and then we go to the UAE, where we've been since COVID interrupted international racing for 2 races at Dubai Autodrome. Familiar to you, I'm sure, with the Dubai 24 Hours that you've covered so many times. And then to Yas Marina in Abu Dhabi, 40 minutes or so down the road. So 6 4-hour races. It's great fun. We have a surprise new addition to that team. I'm saying no more than that. It will be Oliver 14 losses at Petit Le Mans, Gavin, and myself. In fact, here's the thing. His proportional strike rate at that race, it's only marginally better than mine.
How many Petit Le Mans did you lose?
I've not lost any.
No, that's a very good point.
I've not won any either, so my loss rate is better than his.
Agreed.
Okay.
You're effectively drawing.
He beats me in the wins. It's 5-0 on that front. I'm not sure I can claw that back. But in terms of the losses...
5 wins versus 5 losses, you're back to what you're on. And then there's an additional 9 losses.
Yeah.
So you're 9 ahead, in my opinion.
It's going to take, at 60 years old now, it's going to take me some time to overhaul that level of lack of success.
That is a good point.
But, yeah. And that's before we get into the Le Mans situation, where I think that's 5 wins as well, which must mean that's well into the teens.
Versus how many did he enter?
13, 14 losses there.
Yeah. It's not good. There's no real good way of painting that, and I'm not surprised they didn't go anywhere near it on the press releases that you've already talked about.
It's disappointing from Ryan Smith and the team at GM. They're usually so good with the stats, and yet that one, just a gaping chasm in what's otherwise encyclopedic stuff. That's before we get into Jan Magnussen, Johnny O'Connell.
Good point.
You know
how difficult racing drivers are to pin down.
I thought just put the how difficult racing drivers are. Full stop.
Full stop.
Yes.
But to know where they are at any one point, is there a danger here if you're an LMP3 team that you're going to lose your driver? You almost need them on a lead or reins, because they'll be wandering around the garage. They'll get bored. They'll go to catering or somewhere else. Hospitality.
There are right now people listening in up and down pit lane, team organisers. I'm sure Tegan down at TF Sport and Charlotte Lumley down at Nielsen Racing, and many others are going, yes, exactly like that. And at home, the likes of Fiona Miller and Cara de Vlaming.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
So, you've committed to, be in this place at this time, to be in the car for the start of the session, and now it's not happened for 50-odd minutes. You turn round and the driver's going to be gone. And then it's a question of, come on, we're going to be starting in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Where's our pilot? So one or two of them might chuck in the pro, because we haven't got anybody else.
Absolutely.
Or a racing mechanic who's always wanted to do it.
The one thing I can tell you, by the way, if you are still with us, is we're closer to the end of this than we were 15 minutes ago, I think.
That's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
Still not massively close, though, because there's quite a big hole still in that arm coat. I'm trying to work out which were the tyre tracks of the Audi, because it looks like a number of cars have actually lost it there earlier on in the week, and onto some very slippery grass indeed. And therefore, I'm a little surprised we've not seen an incident like that over the years we've been coming to Portimão for the season finale.
Still can see Steph Wentworth there, patrolling pit lane. Not doing a lot of work, I can see.
You said that. You said that. I thought she's spoken to a few people already.
She did what I say, a few, one or two.
One or two.
One or two.
Yeah, but when you're all set up to do...
A bit worried about the battery on a microphone, I think that's what it is.
Ah, okay. What about the batteries on our microphones?
Unfortunately,
we've already lost a screen.
They're plugged into the mains, mate. We're
great.
We're here for the duration.
Well, settle in, folks. We could be here till 10 o'clock tonight.
We could. At least some of those cars are fluorescent.
True.
But
I pity those entered into the Porsche Carrera Cup France today, though, because that is rapidly turning into a night race, which is no bad thing, necessarily. I did see, during the Barcelona 24-hour race weekend, we actually had night Clio Cup racing at Barcelona.
Really?
On the Friday night. 52 cars, I think, were in that race. Now, I'm a big fan of Clio racing. Sadly, a thing of the past at top level in the UK. But, yeah, for that many cars, they all had lights, so it wasn't really a problem. But I tell you, when you're trying to commentate on a race like that, trying to tell them apart is very tough.
Here's a crossover between two themes. Nürburgring, in fact, three themes. We talked about the Nürburgring, the 24 hours and the challenges there with barrier repairs. We talked about GM drivers and their terrible finishing records. Mm. And you're now talking about Clio Cup.
I am.
Give me a storyline that links the three. Can you remember? Johnny O'Connell, Nürburgring 24 hours, Renault Clio.
Racing a Renault Clio.
He did. Fairly recently. Johnny Red.
Matthias Besch, who's here this weekend in the ELMS, has a record of racing Clios in Dubai.
Why wouldn't you?
Well,
why
totally.
Wouldn't you?
Either if you're after signatures for that particular race, and then if you're not, and you just happen to have a free weekend.
Absolutely.
There are so many enthusiasts up and down this paddock that just want to be in a race car, regardless of power output, downforce. They kind of don't really care about that. And then I am just mesmerised by the ability of these drivers to kind of get in, and after certainly a few laps, maybe even just a few corners, they've adjusted to it.
Yes.
So you've gone from a hypercar or an LMP1 car to a little Clio front-wheel drive, and they go, yeah, okay, I get this. Excellent. Let's
absolutely
crack on.
right. Absolutely right. And that's that ability to switch between technologies, drivetrains, the feel of a car. That's what sets these people apart. Astonishing stuff. Just watching one or two of our circuit officials. Waiting to see when we see them back at the end of pit lane, which will be another clue that things are about to get back underway. We're closing in on 2 p.m. And they are beginning to put things together there, without a doubt.
Well, there's had to be a new strut at the end of those three layers.
I think that's the biggest problem they've had, is that's needed some time. And you can see, by the way, the Manitou Taylor handler on the right-hand side there, I think is actually keeping that under strain to keep it against the uprights.
Yes. So we may even be talking about, with buckets there, some new concrete that's now having to be laid and set.
Gentlemen, by the way, you can see in the centre of shot there in the wheelchair, that is Gilles Duquesne. That is the Duquesne behind Duquesne Automotive that build the LMP3 cars, and Duquesne Team, separate organisation within his empire that campaigns the LMP2 Orica in the European Le Mans Series. And by the way, in the early part of my reporting career, in the early years of this century, no mean GT3 driver in nothing other than a Dodge Viper with some hand controls for Gilles. Got stuck in.
I'm sure you can do nothing else when you're driving a Dodge Viper. Yeah, the more you're kind of full force in one of those cars, the better and the more progress you will make. You have to have a certain mentality, perhaps, to be part of that fold, and Gilles definitely has it. As now more of that metalwork is being bent into position, but that's only this next section. So there's still a gap, isn't there, just around the corner, the area that we can't see, that will need to be addressed as well.
So far, just running down the qualifying times in this LMP3 session. No time set by the LMP3s. That Renault truck, though, has not completed a lap, and it's now been 45 minutes.
Yeah. And the Manitou, frankly, compared to the other vehicles we're watching, is very, very fast.
I mean,
everybody else appears to be stopped compared to the Manitou, going backwards.
The one thing it does teach us is you don't want to be hit by a GT3 Audi.
True. Although the Audi looks rather second-rate now. But yes, it came in with full force and sort of engine first, not quite as bad as a Porsche, and therefore I wonder whether, you know, it's hopefully not a weekend-ending incident for the stellar Audi. But clearly quite a lot of work is required on that, and they may be up till all hours.
Progress.
We may be up till all hours.
Progress. Next information is at 14:10, so the gap is now down to 10 minutes, not 15.
Okay, so each update for the last few has been, you're
15
right,
minutes.
A quarter of an hour. The first update was only 10 minutes and promised much.
That was, I think, a misstep.
They were just toying with us.
That's just a misstep, without a shadow of a doubt.
So 10 past 2, folks. If you've not had any lunch yet, maybe think about putting a sandwich together. And if you're not supposed to be on a lunch break, stay at your desk and carry on working. It is Friday afternoon, after all. What's a reasonable time to finish on a Friday?
Depends.
If you're in the UK or here in Portugal, it's the same time, isn't it?
Well, it is the same time.
4 o'clock?
Well, depends on whether or not you work for me. I think the answer, as Stephen Kilby will tell you, my deputy at the moment, is that he never stops.
Really? Even on a Friday?
We're allowing him a day off next August to get married.
Just one day off in the year?
Well, I say a day off between 2 and 2:30.
Well, that's all you need, isn't it, for a wedding ceremony? Yeah. In between writing articles about, I don't know, GT Cup. Other highlights.
But, yeah, everybody's going to be eager to get moving, I'm sure, here. It's very quiet down there. But these things, once they get a sniff that they're going to be allowed back out there, you just watch. It'll be like an ant's nest.
Well, I'm expecting 28 abreast, frankly, at the end of the pit lane. And
I'll be
they'll all get
disappointed
bottled
if not.
They'll all get bottled up. It'll be a track blockage, and then we won't be able to talk about racing for another 3 hours.
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong, I think is the...
Yeah, these drivers won't be starving because they'll be probably getting a snack right now, but they'll be starving for times in the session and a good grid position for tomorrow's season finale. And there will be those teams who've had a bit of a nightmare 2024, who are desperate to go out on a bang, so to win the race in isolation. And that's where it's more difficult when you're the championship potential winner to stay out of trouble, because there'll be so many teams wanting to impress ahead of, well, a big day here on Sunday with the rookie tests taking place, and then opportunities next year. And it's about staying out of the carnage and trying to get a clean finish if you're in the championship hunt.
Yeah, it gives us, while we wait for this 14:10 update, Johnny, the chance to just clear up a couple of things. I know that people who've watched, not the full race coverage, but perhaps some of the clips you'll see on the internet, clear up a couple of things that may not have been obvious from some popular clips that have been doing the rounds, particularly for the Le Mans 24 Hours in 2023 and in 2024. So the only acceptable alternative at 2:30 in the morning for cake for breakfast is musical instruments.
Yes.
And photographer John Brooks is definitely not dead.
He's still not dead.
I checked last week, he's definitely okay.
Did you speak to him last week as well?
Yes.
Because you said within the commentary in June, I spoke to him last week.
Yes.
John Brooks isn't dead.
No.
You do realise that this segment of broadcast for you and I, you know, the door is open for a potential utterance like that, because you don't really know what you're saying at this point.
I'm completely on top of my game, Johnny.
Are you?
I mean,
okay.
I'm not.
Well, that's more than
I'm not in any way expected to be punished for the rest of my career by Oliver Gavin.
Is this a good time to bring to the table the competition for the wooden spoon this weekend in amongst you and your team?
Yeah, that's been a thing we've had since we started travelling to European races, which is the Delhi Sports Car team. We have a wooden spoon, a literal wooden spoon, which is awarded to the member of the team that makes the most heinous cock-up of the weekend. And 3 offers so far.
And these are all 3 that have happened this weekend.
All 3 happened on the same day.
Amazing, yes.
The first of them was with me over a period of some 12 hours, wondering why my Peugeot hire car wasn't responding with a blink of the marker lights to the key.
So hang on, you were trying to lock it, you were trying to unlock it.
I locked it to walk into a supermarket.
Right.
I came out, unlocked it, was wondering on both occasions why the little blinkers didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't acknowledge your
It didn't
clicking.
acknowledge my click. And then we got to our Airbnb and did the same, and again didn't acknowledge. But by that stage, I just thought they must have all done it.
It must be by design.
Yes, must be by design. Only to find out the following morning that I've been trying to do that with my Audi key, and that the Peugeot key was actually inside the completely unlocked car.
So that's your actual car that you're trying to unlock many hundreds, thousands of miles away.
Being an Audi key, it probably did unlock it, but...
Good point, yeah, from distance.
From distance.
Yes.
So that was me. We then had my business partner, David Lord, our photographic editor, who's here looking after a couple of our clients, going back to the Airbnb to feed the boys that night, and decided rather than getting takeaway food, Dave, as a trained chef, and he is, thought instead of that, I'm going to go and get some victuals from the local supermarket and cook. And amongst that were 3 pizzas, only to get back to the house and find out that the house has no oven.
Well, to just flesh that out a little bit and give Dave the benefit of the doubt, it has a hob on the work surface, right? So that you can boil stuff.
You can't boil a pizza.
And then he assumed that because there's a hob on the top, then in the work surface, you must open this door, and that's where the oven is. And the oven was full of pots and pans where they're actually stored, because it is literally just a hob. There is no oven.
You check, though, don't you?
You would like to think so, if he's a trained chef.
Yeah. And then final
what sort of a chef are you when you don't assess what cooking equipment you've got?
Bluntly, not a very good one
before
there,
you prepare the meal.
And then, by the way, filling in for our deputy editor this weekend, Stephen Kilby, Martin Little is a regular part of DSC's crew at the Le Mans 24 Hours, is here European Le Mans Series for the first time in many moons. And
he's never covered an ELMS race ever before, he told me.
Is that right?
Yeah. Who's never been to this track, and his first ever ELMS race.
I thought he'd been with us at a race at Silverstone many moons ago, but either way. And he arrived having been coached by me as to how he
should behave,
and arrives here, by the way, as an accredited member of the media, which is important and involves all sorts of clearances and insurance and etc. Only to, having confirmed that various things have been done, only then realised he hadn't applied for accreditation and couldn't get into the circuit,
Oh,
having flown to Portugal.
yes. So you walk into accreditation to say, "Hello, I'm Martin. Can I have my pass, please?" You're not on the list. You're not coming in.
Yeah. Okay.
So how did he get in?
I
You couldn't possibly comment.
couldn't possibly comment, but I did. You know, palms were greased, and all I can say is thank you very much to the LMEM media team.
He hasn't got in on a John Brooks pass, has he? On the assumption that
John's
John
alive.
Brooks is dead.
No, John's alive.
Okay. Fine.
So he's here and he's working, and he'll be listening in at the press room at the moment, and all I can say is type faster. So that's that. They're the 3 offers at the moment.
The other fun thing is that both Martin and David, Martin Little and David Lord, are listening because they're now populating our WhatsApp chat with lots of lovely messages to say how good we are at this job.
And none of those can be repeated on air.
Funnily enough.
Hold that. There you go.
I know.
So
Oh, well.
I will admit, by the way, I will add though, David Lord is not so poor a chef that he tried to boil a pizza. He didn't do that. I think it's fair to say that the owners of the Airbnb will have pointed out to them there are 3 perfectly good pizzas in the fridge.
I heard they steamed it. The other thing I think you might be able to do
With
is,
an iron?
You know, a calzone. So you fold a pizza in half.
Don't tempt them.
Right, and then you'd probably need to slice it in half, so you've got 2 folded pizzas, and just bung that in the toaster.
Toaster?
So you could have a pizza toasty that is self-contained. Well, the cheese dripping out.
Look, in 25 years,
molten cheese.
in 25 years of travelling with these people who I love, like brothers, nothing is beyond them. Nothing.
I think this is potential for this evening's food.
You think this could be a challenge?
Yeah. Well, Martin tried absolutely every way that you might be able to make a pizza.
Yeah.
I think I had about 25 pictures delivered to my phone of various different ideas.
Well, another of our media cohort, Jens Jensen from the press room, asks what's the longest we've had to fill in any race. Well, certainly
Le Mans safety car this year was a challenge.
that was 6 hours.
I think it was 5, but
We've had some Lulus at the Nürburgring 24 hours in the past.
there was a total of 6 hours of safety car in that race, but I don't think it all came at
I think
once.
it was 4 overnight. I came in after one little bit of sleep.
Well, I was on for a 4-hour stint as part of Radio Le Mans, and we didn't get any racing within that, and there was a fair bit of safety car after I finished as
There
well.
was an occasion in fairly recent memory, pre-COVID, in the Age of Le Mans series, where we had a serious lightning strike. And when I say a serious lightning strike, I mean multiple direct strikes on camera positions and on the main studio computer. So that took out, I think, 11 of our 14 cameras. One of the strikes blew the cameraman off his stand and took out all studio controls. We lost our studio.
Yeah.
We lost our main control computer. We ended up doing that with 3 cameras and with 2 commentators sitting in a literal broom cupboard with 1 hand mic, with the door open so we could see hand gestures from the director on the other side of the door. That wasn't a long fill, but that was probably the most taxing broadcast, other than in the very early days of the FIA-WEC, when we had all sorts of weird and wonderful qualifying formulas. You might remember the days when it was the average of 2 lap times, where having a functioning timing screen was absolutely vital. And this was back in the days of old Interlagos, before the facilities were redone. They're now excellent. And I know it might have been Mexico City with John Hindhaugh, and we turned up into our commentary booth, and there was no TV, there was no timing, and there was no internet. And we were about to go live for about an hour and a half of qualifying with that formula.
Yeah.
And the only way we could do it was somehow John, on his mobile phone, managed to get hold of Paul Truswell at home, who had some kind of functioning timing screen, and we had some kind of Skype chat back that gave us some timing.
Wow.
We had nothing. Nothing. Yeah. The only thing we could see was pit in.
Completely flying blind, and actually thanking somebody who's not even at the track, not even at the venue, who knows more than you do. I have been in that situation a few times before. I got into this job in the first place, Graham, because it is so glamorous.
I don't know about you, but it's the jet set glamour that appeals to me more than anything else.
Hugely so. I mean, you know,
Anybody that knows me knows I'm not that keen on racing, particularly sports car racing.
No. Well, you're just a diva.
Well, you know, I'm just, to be honest...
The racing is the mechanism to get your name out there.
I don't like thinking of myself as a TV commentator or even as a journalist. I like to think of myself as an influencer.
You are.
Yeah. So if you've got anything you'd like me to influence, particularly Domino's Pizza right now, then you can get me at DSC Editor on Twitter.
Fine. Well, that can be sorted. No issue at all. Can you influence this situation in any way? Maybe the final bolts of the Armco being drilled or
that's the difference.
Into
that's
place?
the difference, by the way. That's the difference. We've got one of the female camera operators in the grandstand there. One of the male ones sitting down, not engaged at all. And the lady there, there's John Oakverne there on that camera. It's good to see Jev.
Nice jumper, Jev.
Yeah, 25. That's both his age and his IQ. That's fantastic to see.
You can see why he was given those headphones. He can hear every word.
I know.
That's why you're doing it.
And there's one of the team had there.
Just set up a bed wherever you want. I mean, that's perfect.
Oh, dear me.
Everyone thought he was bringing that flight case to put his camera in at the end of the day, but no, it's just a mobile bed. Needed a pillow, though, I thought.
Oh, dear me. There's a variety of people mentioning on the chat that they think I'd be a fantastic star on TikTok.
Well, you are trying.
I'm very
trying.
That's Trudy. Actually, I'm really trying, dear me.
Someone keeps overplaying their part from the pit wall every time that we cut. Oh, no, there's a few more, actually. But every time we go to that camera that looks at the pit lane, there's someone who's almost doing ballet dancing in the middle of the concrete.
I could spot Team Virage branding on those overalls. There's Steph Wentworth again.
Standing,
looking towards the camera.
Is she going to interview anybody?
She's not going to bother. No.
Too sunny for that.
Yeah. But there you go. So you can see it's hell out there.
Well, the multi-purposes of quad bikes, again, great way to chill out, sprawl yourself across. What we're not seeing is those cars that maybe have got their damaged machines back now, so frantic work, I'm sure, taking place right now at Kessel and the number 12 Ferrari. And the Audi was put on a flatbed, wasn't it, that did all this damage to the Armco. Session will start at 2:25. That's 8 minutes away, folks. 8 minutes.
By the way, Nico Lapierre there, stepping down between rounds here as a driver. He's not been driving this year in the European Le Mans Series, but just a moment to say thank you to Nico for all the entertainment as a driver down through decades with him. He's going to step up to be a member of the senior management team at Alpine in their hypercar effort. We'll be starting that role next time out at Bahrain in the FI World Endurance Championship. Here, team principal for Cool Racing. And he's been enjoying his switch of roles and has now decided that's where his focus is going to be. So that's another member of our driving cohort that leaves. The tragedy, and I know you're all going to be sorry that I'm not going to be able to do this, is that only gives me now, what is that, 7 minutes to talk about Huskies.
Oh, yeah, we haven't even got onto that topic yet. And you've done well to get this far.
Absolutely amazing.
Without the mention of are they called snow dogs?
There's a lot of things we're calling this particular Husky.
I'm aware of that.
Yes. He's not been
it's taking a while to settle in. In fact, you were telling me a story about actually being more at home in your next door neighbour's house.
Yeah, he
wandered off, and then you looked into their front room, and there he was sitting on their settee.
Yeah, jumped over our 6.5-foot fence, and at the time it took me to literally sprint around to next door to make sure he was okay. They've got a secure garden. As I came round to their front door, he's there sitting down in their front room.
He answered the door, in fact, to you. Hello, Dad. You found me. That's boring.
Dear me. Yes. Trying weekend underway at the moment from Mrs. Goodwin, with thanks to Taz, the overexcitable Husky.
Well, you did call him Taz. Or was
did for a reason. After the Tasmanian devil.
A bit of a devil.
Yes.
Right, so the Hans device being put on around Jamie Falvey's neck. He's another one that's going to have to spend longer in the pit lane than others. 27 seconds additionally for car 26. There are 3 drivers and cars on the list. We've mentioned about Fabian Michal. The other is the Lebanese driver Shahan Sarkissian, who'll have to spend 40 extra seconds. So that's again nearly 3.5, or exactly 3.5 minutes in the pit lane come the race tomorrow morning.
Spotted a white wall tyre there on the wheelbarrow. That was something.
Okay.
There's a wheelbarrow down at the repair site.
Interesting, right?
So, drivers getting, if not aboard the cars, then many of the cars being fired up. We are going to get to track action shortly. It is to be confirmed, remember. So 14:20 right now. 14:25, the session will start, to be confirmed. Thumbs up there from the Cool Racing mechanic. It's, by the way, that is required safety gear with the full fire suit, the carbon fibre helmet and goggles. It is not a Cool Racing a Daft Punk tribute act.
But that would be something.
That'd be good.
Cool, and they're Swiss though, aren't they? You need to be a French team, really.
Yeah.
But much missed Daft Punk, they are no more. See, Martin Haven could have talked about the demise of French dance bands rather than photographers who are still very much alive.
For the love of God, don't encourage him.
Okay. It feels like during these types of chats that really nothing is off limits with Martin. There's a car that...
literally nothing.
Literally nothing. There's a car carrying damage there. These cars haven't even been out yet, so that's a concern.
Interesting.
Was that done as...
A&S Motorsports car?
Yes.
With Eric de Donker, I believe, the 98s. His own team, Motorsport 98.
Yeah, so there is no 98 car, but de Donker has returned to the championship.
He has indeed.
So what car is he in?
I think he's in the A&S Motorsport car.
A&S.
Eric de Donker is the 6 car.
You're spot on. Car 6, yeah.
84, that is the... is that the GG Classics car? That's the other A&S Motorsport car. It's a similar paint scheme to the GG Classics car. No relation, by the way. So completely different colour schemes, the 2 cars from A&S. 11 different nations, by the way, represented in the teams alone here, from as far afield as Australia, GG Classics, and all across Europe, and drivers from many more nations than that.
Now this is the other A&S car. I think you were right that that was the GG Classics that we caught sight of a short time ago, 58. That was the 84 in the darker blue. Julien Lemoine will be qualifying that. Paul Trajani, the silver. Paul's already been in action today in the Ligiers, and speaking of which, this is, as I say, it's been quite a wait for everyone that has been summoned to the assembly area for the Ligier European Series, which was due to be a 1:30 start. We're now at nearly 2:30, and it's going to be longer than that yet. So a penny for the thoughts of particularly Theo Mercouris and Hayden Chance, but also the one driver that could yet win the title, who is Ian Aguilera. Meanwhile, Julien Schell
Is a champion.
Is a champion already with David Cosenel.
Yep.
And of Pegasus Racing.
So yeah, Julien, the now team principal of the family owned and run Pegasus Racing. Lovely guy. He's been around racing for a long time. LMP2 campaigners with a variety of chassis back in the day, and now firm proponents of the Ligier European Series, campaigning I think 3 cars here, but we've had as many as 4 in the past from Pegasus in the series. Awaiting access to the fast lane. That's going to come only when race controls say they can. We're still waiting for confirmation it's going to be 14:25. Yeah, this is double, triple stacking sessions now. So there'll be all sorts of people keeping an eye on the sliding scale of the timetable here. Still waiting for some of this machinery. Adrian Freitas still there, by the way.
I don't think he's left the scene. He's always on site there, overseeing everything, making sure that it's being done to the right standard.
classic route into his stellar career in race direction and endurance racing. As a marshal at Estoril to start with, and here celebrated 40 years, I think I'm right, 40 years as a marshal fairly recently.
Oh, right.
And on occasion will still go and stand on guard at Marshal's post with friends and colleagues. At the Le Mans Classic in 2019, my colleague, I mentioned it earlier, David Lord, he of the Raw Pizza fan, on the Mulsanne Straight, down there to take some pictures of some of the fabulous machinery on offer. And who did he bump into on post but Eduardo Freitas?
Wow. But that just shows a willingness and how important it is to be knowledgeable about what flag marshals have to deal with when they're on the receiving end of messages from Eduardo, very possibly.
Touring car star Ivan Muller, now at the head of his and his wife's M Racing squad. And now we have vehicles moving away from that site, so that does mean that whilst we won't quite make it at 25 past the hour, it won't be long, and that truck is being ushered away from the site. We're about to go racing, and with that, it's the end. No, it's not. It's.
And with that, the sun sets, and I'm afraid we can't do it now. We've still got plenty of time, but I do wonder about the rest of the day and whether it's going to have to be adjusted slightly.
Well, if you're still with us, thank you so much. We do appreciate retaining an audience with such limited track action. And to be honest with you,
we've struggled to build it over the years, so we don't want to wave goodbye to him.
Such limited effort from Steph Wentworth. I think there was only, what, 4, 5, 6 interviews there in that 4 hours.
I must have missed a couple.
I'm expecting to be punished heavily for that comment. As I check outside the box, yes, there is indeed a tall ex-Corvette factory driver, and he's carrying a club. Yeah. And I don't mean a chocolate biscuit.
Oh, that's a shame. I could murder a club at this stage of the day. The Caffeine 6 sponsored 43 Inter Europol competition car is on starters orders. Let's just hope that everyone remembers what they've got to do now, because they've been chilling out that much. There was one team with about 3 guys using the quad bike as a pillow, but they're all now cranking back into life, as are the marshals as well, who've been restricted as to going up that ladder because that was the repair scene. Here we go. I've missed this. All of a sudden, the signal to get everyone into the pit road, but literally to the fast lane. So that's how important it was to win that race and then leap on the anchors. And some other teams going, no, we're just not going to get involved with this. Just hold back, and we'll be in the second batch. 99 is the More Motorsport car of Mark and Max van der Snel, the dad and lad crew.
Made it to the podium after a post-race disqualification at Spa. Well done to them. And actually, that's coming on strong, that effort.
Yeah, yes, they're building up the graph, as you might say. The curve is going in the right direction. Now the green light illuminated at the end of pit road, and for the first time, LMP3 qualifying can begin for the Michelin Le Mans Cup, as cars are overlapping one another in the pit road entry route. I suppose there's nothing to prevent you from doing that. As soon as you cross the white line, you can overtake, even in pit lane exit. Careful not to cross the blend line, though, that delineates the exit road from the main racetrack. And 1 or 2 others having now got themselves a good position in this starting train, willing to give up a little bit of space, or, well, that's more in an effort to build the gap to the car in front, so that you're not beginning a qualifying lap boxed in behind 2 or 3 other cars.
It's going to be busy out there. 28 cars, it's a big grid of LMP3s.
And the shortest track of the season as well.
So getting the clear run here is going to be a mix of a little bit of experience and a bit of luck as well. So away we go. Clock is finally ticking down.
And is it a brave person who says it won't be Fabien Michel with the quickest time, having set so many pole positions already this season in car number 85? So experience in doing that.
Yeah.
Didn't get the poles, though, at the Road to Le Mans, but they were weird qualifying sessions. In fact, one didn't even happen for the Saturday race. That's how the points stand. RSGP leading then by 5.5. over the David Drew and Adrian Schiller car. We caught up with David Drew, Steph Wentworth did, earlier on in this afternoon. And an interesting point that he made, actually, first time to drive together, David and Adrian were with Cool Racing last year, but in separate cars. So they've known each other for quite some time, and it is now excellent to be in one car as a full force.
So away we go, and on to the first flying laps of this session. The longest Michelin Le Mans Cup qualifying session ever. A bit of sad news, by the way. I've heard from Gary at Stella Motorsport. I'm afraid we will not be seeing the Audi again. That's really horrible luck. So good luck with the Duquesne, boys and girls from Stella Motorsport. It's a long way to come not to race. And that just looked like it was unlucky. A lot of places on this track that same incident would have ended up with the car in a gravel trap, and I've never seen the car in the barrier there.
No, I have no. Well, we almost couldn't find the car because it was down the bank and wondered where on earth it had disappeared to. And I think when you go in at that sort of speed and on that angle, it had clearly broken the rear left suspension and potentially buckled the wheel as well. That's a lock-up for Oscar Bitar in the 59 car. Regularly put out, nearly always put out in qualifying, because these teams have to have at least one bronze driver, and it's their responsibility to do this part of the weekend. You don't have to start the race with your bronze, but generally all teams do, because it gives them more options strategy-wise at the end if the gun driver, the silver or gold, is in for the second segment.
But Tony Wells is, I think, he is going to be first driver across the line. Started on the front row of the grid for the first LMP3 race in the Michelin Le Mans Cup back in 2017. Where's he going to be? He's going to be top at the moment because he's the first to qualify, but stays there as the first offerings come in from many others. It's a 142.218 for Tony Wells, aboard the number 7 Nielsen Racing car. Team announcing last time out, new backing. A new look, I think, is well coming the way of Nielsen Racing for next season. Wait and see whether or not we see them back in LMP3. Certainly they're going to continue in LMP2, where there's been much investment, but they've been a firm part of this formula. Oscar Bitar goes through, he's second quickest. Alden Gudmundsson, though, the 77 car, shared with Tony's original co-driver, Colin Noble. That car goes top, and our Icelandic driver, the man with the volcano in his back garden, into the 141s. 141.496 from Alden Gudmundsson.
And Mark van der Snel right up there in the 99 More Motorsport car. We've already mentioned the van der Snel name, so it is 5 Ligiers, make that 6 JSP 320s now at the sharp end, as Jacek Zielonka for MV2S Racing goes second fastest in the 29 car. Jamie Falvey for Breton Racing, good result for them earlier on in the campaign as well, and not out of it as far as the championship is concerned. It would take a peculiar set of results to see them win the title. In fact, it's not that car, is it? It's the sister Breton car, number 62, driven by Ben Stone.
Watch this car. Fabien Michel is on a flyer now, and he's got room to play with. 141.495. Tony Wells goes through at 140.3. Fabien Michel a 139.889. That's some lap.
And Romano Ricci missed in the process as well, going over the line to be in the middle of those two. So Ricci for M Racing, car 13's done a 140.352, right after that time for Fabien Michel. So all the names change at the sharp end. Michel for RHGP, Ricci for M Racing, Wells for Nielsen, and James Sweetnam for Cool Racing, number 87. Your top 4 separated by 0.8 of a second.
Happy to say all 28 cars have now set a flying lap, a scored lap. 9 minutes to go in this 15-minute session. Fabien Michel for championship leaders RHGP. They've got a fight on their hands this weekend, though, from M Racing, Nielsen Racing. It's then Ageli by T2 Racing as Peter de Kertens pops up there. Jem Sweetnam for Cool Racing. Team Virage's Oscar Bitar. Adrian Schiller for the second Cool Racing squad. Up into the middle of that one, MV2S pop there with the 29 car. Racing Spirit Le Mans and More Motorsport. That is your top 10. 8 minutes to go.
And a very good first couple of sectors from Fabian Michel. He might even be able to go faster than he's managed already by 0.3 of a second. There's a slippery surface flag shown at turn 8 briefly, but that's now been withdrawn. Might not have been slippery surface, might have been a bit of debris, I suppose, which might have been barged out of the way by the next car through, but it is green all around the racetrack. We're almost at the halfway point. 7.5 minutes pretty much.
Tony Wells goes to the top, but Fabian Michel beats him to it. Watching, though, the stellar motorsport car of Andrew Bentley. He's up on the pole time. At the moment, he's listed as 28th place. Is he going to snatch pole position at this stage?
Jens Reno Moller goes over the line. High-class racing to third, make that fourth, because Andrew Bentley did complete the lap for Stella Motorsport in the 42 car and is 0.15 of a second quicker than Fabian Michel, although Michel is up on this lap through the first sector, 42 thousandths of a second quicker than Bentley's effort.
Andrew Bentley, could he be providing something of a headline, a fillip for the troubled Stella Motorsport squad? Lost their Audi, and we lost a lot of time with the damage that was done with that unfortunate accident for the 24 car. But the 42 there, Duquesne back in action this weekend, and Andrew Bentley at the moment tops the times.
But this lap for Andrew Bentley has already been deleted because of track limits. He's holding on to his 139.5 though, and that is the crucial one, putting him 1.5 tenths faster than Fabian Michel. But Michel, he's halved his advantage. He was 42 thousandths up through the first sector. He's now 25 thousandths quicker than Bentley's effort through the second sector. So we're waiting for RHGP. This is not the ideal completion of the lap, though, because there's a car right in front of him.
It's Tony Wells. They're both flying.
Well, they're both rapid, so maybe it won't affect Fabian Michel's time. He goes top, and he clears the Bentley time by about the same distance, 0.16 this time, rather than the deficit of 0.15.
But this is not done. Andrew Bentley will not improve on this lap, but he has put in a purple middle sector. There is pace still in that Stella car. So from being, what was it, 6-7 Ligiers in a row, it's now Duquesne on the front row of this grid. Alexander Bekantsov goes through. He's fourth in the Inter-Europol competition, number 34. It's changing all the time. 5.5 minutes to go. Fabian Michel for RHGP, the number 85 car, under 0.2 of a second clear from Andrew Bentley in the 42 Stella Motorsport car before we get to the first of the Ligiers. Tony Wells looking to bookend his career so far in the Michelin Le Mans Cup with front row starts, and he's one position short of that right now.
Another big lock-up for the Inter-Europol competition car, number 34, being driven by Alexander Bekantsov. So he'd already done a 139.8 to go into fourth position, and clearly hadn't given up on another push. I was about to mention that Auden Gudmundsson had come into pit lane, and he's wanting to rejoin with just under 5 minutes left on the clock. So I don't know whether they did all four tyres there, maybe just the rears, although I saw a front going on as well, so perhaps that's a fresh set of tyres. Remember that tyres are still at a premium at this level.
Auden Gudmundsson, remember, led this session just, what, 3-4 minutes ago? He's 21st now.
Yeah.
That's how much more quickly these cars are actually going as we get deeper and deeper into this 15-minute session. We're now into the last 5 minutes. Fabian Michel comes across the line. No improvement there. Andrew Bentley not that far behind him on track. In fact, coming into and through that massive sweeping turn 15 to start what he will hope will be an improved lap time. He's not going to beat it this time, but will get another crack.
So you only get, in LMP3, 3 sets of tyres, 12 in total, and you can take 2 additional jokers at some point in the season, not every weekend, but 2 extra at some point in the season. But that's what I mean about how and where you use your tyres. In free practice, in qualifying and the race, it's only 12 tyres in total. So that is a brave decision from Auden Gudmundsson and those associated with his squad, Team Tour, to change tyres and get back into the session. An indication of how much blusteriness, really. It's not firm wind, but it can change direction at the last minute, so that's not going to help the downforce, particularly in these LMP3 cars.
Pace beginning to go away from some of these teams. Andrew Bentley, I'm afraid track limits on the next lap has his final chance gone here. You won't want to put too much more strain on those tyres. Fab Michel still going quickly. Alexander Bekantsov, he's on a quick lap. He could improve here.
It remains a Duquesne front row, though. RSGP and Stella Motorsport. And Stella have had a nightmare GT3 session with their car already out of the race meeting. But this could flip things around in terms of luck. And Andrew Bentley, at the moment, on course for a front row start. He is not improving on this lap. In fact, the first sector was outside track limits, so this lap's been deleted anyway.
Adrian Chiller improves. He's 5th quickest now in the 2nd place of the championship, number 97 car. That's a good start position for them. Lots to play for here, including, of course, the championship tomorrow.
And so many teams mathematically in contention for the championship, but really 2 that are definitely in the hunt, R-Ace and the Cool Racing duo that we've spoken about.
Fabien Michel is still on the fly, 2 minutes to go, and he improves the first sector time again. That's gone purple. It's under a 10th quicker, but he has got a bit of traffic, and I think that's going to hold him up just a little. I think that's, as a prospective fastest lap has gone.
And that is the GG Classics car, which is being driven by George Nakas.
Currently 28th and last in the field. George, first season in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Debuted, as did Breton Racing, in the Asia Le Mans Series last season.
Well, Fabien Michel doesn't necessarily need this lap, and now he was slowed in the middle sector. There is a chance, I suppose, that he might just decide to pit at the end of this lap, leaning on a 0.163 second advantage over Andrew Bentley. Bentley's not going to improve on this lap. Fabien Michel will complete, though, the circuit and head back across the line, maybe eager for one more push. This will be the final opportunity, though, with just over, now exactly a minute left on the clock.
Christophe Lapierre improves to 12th place in the Racing Spirit Le Mans number 10 car and becomes the 12th driver within a second of the provisional pole time. So 12 of our 28 cars here within a single second.
Stefan Aust with some improvement in the 71 car. Also the best lap of the session for Horst Felbermayr in the 50 car. That's a PB, as is Julien Lemoine's best effort in his number 84 car. So there's still time to be found here and there. Gordon Goodmanson on his new set of tyres, posting a time good enough for 17th position. But at the top, now not much changing, because the performance window of the latest set of tyres has been reached. But with Ligier's early dominance in this session, it looked unlikely to get 2 Duquesnes locking out the front row positions. Fabien Michel, checkered flag about to be shown to him, on course then to make it a clean sweep of the more standard rounds pole position. So discount Road to Le Mans. On every other race meeting, though, where we've had a 1 hour and 50-minute race, it has been the 85 car starting from pole position.
A couple of cars going reasonably quickly, and we might see some improvements. I don't think we're going to see pole position challenged here. Down through the final turn for the final time comes the RSGP number 85 car, will complete that lap. So 1:39.371, no improvement, but it's another lap in the 39s for Fabien Michel, and that lap at the end of the session would have been good enough for second. So the fastest 2 laps of the session for Fabien Michel.
Yeah, he's just disappointed there isn't a race 2, because often that a race 2 grid is taken from second fastest qualifying times. He would have had that one as well, but it's a glittering record of pole positions so far this year, and particularly for that man Fabien Michel, who's done all the qualifying. Barcelona pole, Le Castellet pole, Spa, Mugello and Portimão now as well complete the more regular rounds of the Michelin Le Mans Cup. There's no stopping Fabien Michel, and very much interested to know what he may do in 2025, potentially starting that season as a champion, of course.
Well, indeed. European Le Mans Series in his immediate future. Let's hope so. We'd like to keep the talent we've garnered through the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Stella Motorsport crew waiting for Andrew Bentley, who's on pit lane. Fine second place on the grid for the British team. So it is indeed our race GP, the number 85 car of Fabien Michal, that came on pole position, followed by the 42 from Stella Motorsport, Andrew Bentley, second on the grid. That's your front row, 0.163 of a second the gap, and then the first of the Ligiers. It's Nielsen Racing's number 7 car in the hands of Tony Wells from Inter-Europol competition, 34 car in the hands of Alexander Becançon. And there's two teams that have been a big part of this era in LMP3 racing.
So Stella Motorsport going into that session very depressed indeed about the news about their Audi, but that has suddenly perked their interest in the race tomorrow, I'm sure. They'll start second behind the qualification specialist for the season, Fabien Michal, his 5th pole of the season. Andrew Bentley alongside, then Tony Wells and Alexander Becançon for Nielsen and Inter-Europol. Adrian Schiller very much in title contention for Cool Racing alongside Jens Moller for High Class. And then peering further down the screen, there's actually an LMP3 sitting between the two best qualifying GT3 cars. That was a Matt Kurzajewski time in the number 51 Ferrari to start from 27th place, ahead of the number 90 Blackthorn Aston Martin. James Swift put that time in. Another good starting GT3 cars include the 88 of Custodio Toledo. So, after a significant pause in proceedings, thank you for your patience, thank you for sticking with us. We hope we've brought you some fun along the way and a little bit of entertainment. The big entertainment of the weekend, though, for Le Mans Cup, all starts tomorrow. We'll be on air at 10:10 local for a 10:30 start, the season finale. Join us for that. Bye from Graham and from Johnny.